Okay. Sorry, I had to get my power source. Okay, the next regular planning board meeting will be held July 10th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Roll call, please, Yamilet.
Mr. Cardoza,
Present.
Ms. Gaffer,
Here.
Mr. Klein,
Here.
Mr. Morgan. I see him in the public.
Okay.
I don't see him, Jamlet.
He raised his hands.
Okay. I got him.
Okay, well, Markham is here.
Mr. Esmeraldo,
Here.
Say goodbye.
Mayor McCartney,
Present.
Mr. Guarino,
Present.
Chairman Bago,
Here.
and just for the record, Mr. Alfred and Mr. Wilkes will not be joining us tonight.
And Council President we're waiting for. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, to the minutes. I make a motion. Well, does anybody have any corrections or changes, additions or deletions to the February 7, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes? Seeing none, I make a motion we adopt the February 7, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vice Chairman Guarino seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Esmeraldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
this one's not here yet. Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, motion carries. February 28, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Does anybody have any corrections, deletions, or additions? Seeing none, I make a motion we approve the February 28th, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smeraldo seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Well, that's Mr. Cardoza.
Mr. Cardoza, I'm sorry.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
and you don't vote, Mr. Chairman. You were not there in the meeting.
Great, motion carries. The April 3rd, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, I make a motion we approve the April 3rd, 2024 West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll move.
Who moved?
Well,
Mr. Smeraldo moved. Thank you.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
WFO.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Esmeraldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes. I make a motion we approve PB 23-12 L&B Realty Group LLC draft resolution with conditions. May I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Guarino seconds. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the resolution, draft resolution? Seeing none on the resolution, Yamilet.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Esmeraldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, motion carries. PB 24-03 Crystal Eagle, draft resolution with conditions. I make a motion we approve. Second,
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cardoza. Yes, good, I got it. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions? Seeing none, on the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Smiraldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Ms. McGovern, would you swear in the township professionals, please?
Yes, Mr. Hazel and Mr. Hess. I'm looking for Mr. Hess. Oh, okay, thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Application PB 24-02 Wonder Group in INC Block 152.01, Lot 1445.01, Zone B2. This matter will be carried to the July 10, 2024 Planning Board meeting. No additional notice will be required. PB 24-10 Green Essex Partners Urban Renewal Entity LLC Block 155 Lot 42-03 Zone Executive Drive Redevelopment Zone 1000 Executive Drive minor subdivision with variances. Just for the board's edification, before I call on Mr. Skolnick, the attorney, and this is right out of the planner's report, just so you understand, there will be no public questions or comments. The applicant proposes to subdivide a portion of the existing block 155 lot 42-03 and convey a portion of this property to the township of West Orange. The parcel to be conveyed to the township contains a fully constructed dog park. The subdivision, along with the conveyance, implements the prior agreement set forth in the March 10th, 2021 redevelopment agreement and discussed further in conditions 7, page 6 of the May 5th, 2021 planning board resolution. So this is basically cleaning up the remainder of the conveyance of land from one entity to the other. And for the applicant, Mr. Skolnick.
Richard Skolnick on behalf of the applicant, Green Essex Partners Urban Renewal LLC. Chairman, you may have misstated. There are no variances. No variances.
I'm sorry, there were no variances.
There are no variances. And we wouldn't mind if you at least gave the public an opportunity to say something if they wanted to. I doubt anybody's going to be here. There was no notice required, but it might be beneficial just to open it up for a second to see if any member of the public has any comment. But I'm going to suggest, Chairman, this is really what I'll call an administrative matter. There's no development involved. There's no construction. It's a minor subdivision, no variances. And as the reports mentioned, it carries out the contractual agreement that's in the redevelopment plan between my client and the township, and also the May 2021 resolution, which calls for this subdivision. It's Executive Drive. The dog park is constructed. This is simply going to break off the land around the dog park. So, and with my client conveying that parcel to the town, we're okay with the technical comments in Mr. Hess's May 28th letter. We'll work out those things when we prepare the subdivision deed. I have Chuck Thomas from my client, if you need him. But there's the land use law says shall approve, as you may remember from a prior application, if there's no variances. So that's really what I have, Chairman. We're available for questions.
Thank you. Do any members of the board have any questions on what Mr. Skolnick said about this application? Mayor McCartney.
Mr. Skolnick, thank you so much. And we're so pleased. The dog park grand opening was beautiful. There were so many people in attendance. The only thing we've heard so far is that we need more shade. I understand the trees are newly planted and of course they will blossom and bloom. Is that something you're saying you're conveying that to the town, but is that something the town will be responsible for, or will you be providing more shade there?
Have Mr. Thomas on the line. Maybe we'll get him sworn in. He's from the client. I'm not aware, although there may be some requirements in the agreement, but we have Chuck on the Zoom here.
I am.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Um, the question is, the planting of the trees, are there other trees that are going to be planted or other, modifications to the dog park, to your knowledge?
At this time, we feel the dog park is complete.
Um,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the board have any questions?
you know, I think maybe I'm gonna, add to this. This is just, what is the first step to transfer the title to the town. So the town couldn't take title, it's being gifted it. Consideration is $1, it's nominal consideration. But you can't hand them a piece of property unless it's subdivided. So this is the first procedural step for that second official step to be taken, at which point everything in the dog park is owned by the township. And it's up to the township then, at that point, how they want to add to it or continue with it.
So just to be
Thank
clear, at this
Mhm.
point, administratively, the land is not conveyed. The land is just subdivided. It's still in the original ownership.
That's
at a
right,
later
and they're operating the dog park under a use and occupancy agreement, anticipating the closing, which will happen after this minor subdivision is concluded accepted by the board.
Thank you, Diana McGovern, for the clarification.
Okay. Mr. Hess or Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Do any members of the public have any questions? Do any members of the public have any questions? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised.
Thank you. We'll close questions. Do any members of the public have any comments? Do any members of the public have any comments? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, there also are no hands raised.
Seeing none, we will close that portion. At this time, I make a motion that we approve PB 24-10 Green Essex Partners Urban Renewal Entity LLC, Block 155, Lot 42.03, Zone Executive Drive Redevelopment Zone 1000 Executive Drive, minor subdivision without variances. Do I have a second?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman second, Sereno second. Please, Yamilet on the motion.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ronaldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Caffrey,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes,
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Baro.
Yes, motion carries. Mr. Skolnick, thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you.
Thomas, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Chairman,
Take
I
care.
think that there was some intent to memorialize
The
this action.
resolution.
Yes. I like that. You're absolutely right.
So just so the board understands, the resolution, I noticed I had the wrong address. It was supposed to have been 1000 Executive Drive. That's been corrected and sent to Jamilet. So with that correction, the rest of the resolution, I think, is fine.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the board. So at this time, as this was an administrative function, we can, and I will make a motion that we do, memorialize the resolution PB 24-10 Green Essex minor subdivision resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardoza seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ronaldo,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Caffrey,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
yes,
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Baro.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Skolnick. I had to turn the page.
We appreciate that. Have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you all. Okay,
Hello.
PB 24-04 Montclair Golf Club, Block 151, Lots 31, Zone R2, 25 Prospect Avenue. The current application requests variance relief in connection with the applicant's plan to construct a new halfway house to consist of a 1,170 square foot addition to an existing accessory building and provide various other improvements to the property, including construction of a 3-foot high stone wall along the clubhouse frontage to improve aesthetics. For the applicant,
Should be Alan Tremulak.
Hi, this is Tim Derrick from Langen. We're all. Can you let Roger Bacon in as a panelist?
Is he in the attendee audience
He's in the attendee audience.
under his name?
Yes.
Can he raise his hand, his little hand signal?
He just did.
Okay. Yeah, he's listed as a guest. I'm going to let him in now. Mr. Bacon, would you please identify yourself? You're muted.
Start video. Okay. Okay. Yes, I'm Roger Bacon. I'm the general manager of the Montclair Golf Club. Okay. And I'll jump in. Can you hear me? This is Alan Tremulak.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. We're all together, or some of us are in the same room for convenience purposes. So if I might, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, my name is Alan Tremulak. I'm an attorney with the Montclair Real Estate Law Group on Bloomfield Avenue in Montclair. I'm appearing this evening on behalf of the Montclair Golf Club. This is an application for site plan approval involving the golf club property located at 25 Prospect Avenue, which is block 151, lot 1 on the West Orange tax maps. The entire golf club property consists of 277 acres, and 189 of those acres are located in the township of West Orange. All of the improvements, which we'll be discussing this evening, are located in West Orange. This board has heard several applications over the last few years involving the golf club property in connection with various improvements to the club's buildings and other facilities, which have taken place over the last, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 years in large part. This application tonight essentially represents the latest phase of improvements proposed by the club. And this evening, as you'll hear in a few minutes, there are basically 3 components to this site plan application. Firstly, the club proposes to demolish the original swimming pool complex, which is no longer in use, and to renovate and expand the existing golf club or golf shop building. The building expansion will contain approximately 1,800 square feet. It will be located to the rear of the golf club or golf building, which means it'll be further into the golf club and not visible from Prospect Avenue whatsoever. The second phase of the site plan involves the construction of a new accessory building, a halfway house, containing approximately 840 square feet. The halfway house will be located to the rear of the golf shop building, further into the golf course property and further away from Prospect Avenue or any neighboring properties. The third and final component of the application tonight involves various improvements to be made in front of the main clubhouse, including reconfiguring the parking in the front yard, the creation of 15 new parking spaces in front of the clubhouse building, some improvements to the driveways, providing ingress and egress to the site, and lastly, the construction of a 3-foot wall in front of the main clubhouse near Prospect Avenue. Those are the 3 major components that we'll be discussing tonight. We're also seeking, in addition to site plan approval, 3 variances. 2 of the variances are for the height or heights of the accessory buildings. The ordinance provides a height limitation of 15 feet for accessory buildings. We're proposing heights of 22 and 24 feet for the 2 buildings I mentioned, the new halfway house and the expanded golf building. The 3rd variance relates to the proposed 3-foot wall to be constructed in front of the clubhouse property. We're proposing a 100% solid wall, 3 feet in height, and that requires a variance. There's also 1 site plan waiver that we'll be seeking, which our engineer will discuss in a couple of minutes. Now, I have 3 witnesses to present this evening. Our first witness will be Timothy Derrick from Langen Engineering, who's testified in connection with the last several applications before this board at least. And following his testimony, we'll have our project architect, Brian Cooney from FJ Rawding, the project architect, who will discuss the architectural plans for the expanded golf building and the new halfway house. And lastly, our 3rd witness will be Greg Woodruff from Langen Engineering, who will testify as our professional planner in support of the variances that we're seeking. So, Mr. Chairman, unless the board has any preliminary questions from me, I would propose to call our first witness, Timothy Derrick.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay. He'll be sworn.
Mr. Derrick.
Yes. I'm in the
Fine.
room too.
Okay, thanks. I've got a lot of people going on. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Tim, you've testified in connection with the several recent applications involving the improvements to the golf club property. Is that correct?
Yes, the most recent reservoir expansion and pump house, and then
I'm sorry, can we go back and adhere him his education, please?
Yeah, so that was my next question, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you.
Even though you've been here before, I was going to ask you to briefly summarize your educational background and your professional qualifications.
Thank you.
I have a bachelor in science from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in civil engineering, and I have a New Jersey I'm a professionally licensed as an engineer in the state of New Jersey for over 20 years.
Okay, and how long have you been associated with Langen Engineering?
25 years tomorrow.
Okay, and is your license currently in good standing?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I've offered Mr. Derrick as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Do any members of the board have any questions? Seeing none, we accept Mr. Derrick as a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Tim, would you prepared the site plans that have been presented to the board in connection with this application, correct?
Yes.
And for the record, the most recent plans have a revision date of May 3, 2024. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you provide the board with an overview of the site plan drawings, and focusing on the primarily on the changes and the additions for which the club is seeking approval this evening?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen with the plans.
You should have share screening capabilities. There you go.
Yes. Sorry, just took me a second. So just to start, just to get the bearings of the project, it's a similar plan that we've submitted for prior applications, but this is part of our plan sets the overall site location tax map set, last revised in the May 3rd.
Ms. McGovern, you have to label this? I'm sorry, Ms. McGovern, you have to label this?
Well, if it's with the application package, no, but I think each page that you're referring to, like this one, it's very hard to read. It's small on my computer.
You said this was from the previous site.
Yeah, just please refer to the page number on the site plan. So this is CS002. As you're testifying to each page, reference the page number.
Sure, this is the, drawing CS 002, what we call the overall site location and tax map. Just to get some bearings, Prospect Avenue is on the bottom of the page. All the improvements are along Prospect Avenue. The existing clubhouse is in this area. The new pool is further down on the to the south, nearest the Residence Inn. And the existing pool is located next to the clubhouse. So all the work is here, but I'm going to move on to our overall site plan, which is drawing CS 101 with the same revision date. This is a zoom in, more of the same area, but as you see, the clubhouse is here. The existing pool, just for perspective, is approximately where that yellow box is. And we are, I'm going to go, I apologize. I'm going to go to a zoomed in site plan just to make it a little clearer. So this is drawing CS 102. This is showing the improvements in the area of the existing pool. The existing pool is located here, and there's an existing building that's located here and includes the pro shop here. This part of the building will be demolished. It currently houses a locker room, snack bar that are no longer in use. The pool is currently filled in for safety reasons, but it will be demolished as part of the project. So the project, this in this area includes expanding the pro shop, the golf building, which houses the pro shop, golf bag storage, the starter area, and then in the future will hold 2 hitting bays or golf simulators. Additionally, they're proposing to build a golf cart staging area. Currently, there's golf carts are staged within the drive aisles near in front of this existing building and to the side of the building. By eliminating this and building a golf cart staging area, it allows better free flow of traffic and drop off within the parking lot as is intended. And then the halfway house, which is being proposed here, will house a kitchen and bathrooms for use by golfers in the middle of the round and after the round. The remaining work we're proposing is within the parking lot along Prospect Avenue. We're looking to maintain the three existing driveways while expanding the furthest south driveway, which is currently one in and one out. We are looking to add a dedicated left turn and right turn lanes. And also, as we do that, we will also look to eliminate some parking that's currently immediately adjacent to that entrance to allow for better kind of just flow into the golf facility and also south towards the pool. The improvements will also include curbing along Prospect Avenue, but with the county, and a 3-foot high decorative wall for aesthetic purposes. As we eliminate some parking here, we're proposing 15 new parking spaces here. There'll be a net 4 additional parking spaces. We currently have 385 parking spaces on site, and we're proposing 389. There will be no changes to the ADA parking on site. Existing spaces are to remain. There's one existing EV parking space. We're proposing to add a second. I don't think. No. And then generally that's the extent of our site improvements.
Tim, before you move on, and you might want to go back to the prior plan, but I don't know, show if you have this dimensioned on the plan, but if you could at least give the board an approximation as to how far the existing golf building is from Prospect Avenue.
That's probably just the best is on our overall site plan.
Yeah.
The existing building is approximately, I apologize, maybe 210 feet from 210 feet from Prospect Avenue. The new building with an overhang here will be 200 feet from Prospect Avenue. And the halfway house will be 323 feet from Prospect Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
The remaining improvements we have to do with the required utilities and required grading and drainage. And lighting improvements. I'm just trying to get to my grading plan. So this is our overall grading and drainage plan drawing CG 101. Grades are generally to remain as existing. We are planning for the project does disturb greater than an acre, but so it is a major development by stormwater management rules and by your code. In order to address that, we are providing underground detention within ultimately within the golf course area and a porous pavement that's at the front within the new parking spaces at the front. The porous pavement discharges to the county system, which ultimately discharges into Eagle Rock Reservation. The other area, the area to the golf course discharges to an internal drainage system that ultimately discharges to Peckman River greater than 2,000 feet away. Moving to the utilities, the existing sanitary provided by reuse of an existing sanitary lateral that was previously serviced the pool facility. Gas will be provided by the existing gas service that was also to the pool facility. Electric and power and communications are provided through the existing golf course building service. And then also for the site improvements, we're proposing new lighting within the project area, where it currently is lit by floodlights and some existing building lighting. We are the points here depict new pole lighting, and there will also be. I apologize. This is drawing LL 101 overall lighting plan. So there'll be new decorative pole mounting fixtures matching what was previously installed for the pool facility a few years ago. There will also be some decorative lighting on top of the walls at the entrances along Prospect Avenue. And then additionally, last set of improvements we're proposing have to do with landscaping, and that's shown on our landscape plans. This is the overall landscape plan, LP 101. As you can see, we're proposing landscaping along the retaining wall. I apologize, not retaining wall, along the decorative wall on Prospect Avenue. There's several trees and other low landscaping around the proposed buildings. As part of the project, we will be removing one tree as requested in I believe the engineer's letter. It's an ash tree that's in poor health. That's this island. Other than that, there are no other tree removals that are proposed as part of this project.
Okay. Tim, you presented this plan to the at the scrap meeting for this project?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You recall there was a concern that was raised during that meeting about concerns with respect to possible stacking of vehicles exiting the property?
Yes.
Can you just orient the board to that and
just
discuss that issue when you get there?
Excuse me. So looking back at our overall site plan, CS 101, there was a question about that's stacking and cars interfering with traffic flow between in the area of the entrance and exit. I just want to point out that this is an existing parking lot that has been functioning this way for greater than 50 years, closer probably to 100 years with the driveways in place. What we're doing is improving what's currently exists. These are generally private members using this facility or used to the traffic as is. As I said, there was parking. There's existing parking in this area, and there's existing parking in this area, and there's currently only one way in and out. So as it is, cars do just line up here and block traffic. By eliminating the parking here and here, there's room for cars to wait here and wait at this intersection, and also there's room for right turns to be made while left turns are waiting. Additionally, there's minimal traffic is going this way. Obviously, there'll be some increase because we have parking here now, but it's still limited. Everyone generally wants to park in the area of the golf of the pro shop and where they enter the locker rooms, or they want to park by the pool, which is at the southern end of the property. We believe what we're showing is just an improvement on what currently exists and functions today.
There's one, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's one site plan waiver that we're seeking as part of this plan. Is that right?
Yes, the waiver from adding internal sidewalks within the new parking areas. As it operates today, all the users and members walk through the parking lot to get to where they're going. We're not looking to change that today.
Okay. And Monaco Golf Club, to my knowledge, has always been a private golf club. Is that right?
Correct.
And is there any intention to change that going forward?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Club will continue to operate as a private club and not be open to the general public, but simply to members and their guests. Is that right?
Correct. I believe
no change in
current use.
Okay. I just mentioned that because there was a comment in one of the review letters we received. All right, I think my final question was, if you had an opportunity to review the updated comment letter from John Hess, the board's engineer, dated June 4, 2024?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and is there anything in that report you'd like to discuss, or are you able to commit to complying with all of his comments? And
I believe we can comply with all his comments or come to an understanding your agreement if there is a discrepancy.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions? Chairman, I'm sorry, Vice Chairman Garino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Mr. Derrick. Are you qualified to give testimony or answer a question concerning traffic and traffic evaluation?
Very limited.
Okay. Well, then just from your drawings and everything else, I have a concern about the privacy walls. Has anything been taken in any analysis done with any increased inability for people exiting the property to see traffic coming across Prospect?
We as part of our plan set, we have on drawing, which is submitted CS104 site triangles plan. It demonstrates the visibility for traffic for exiting from the driveways. And just to point out that the walls are well behind the stop bars, so they're not interfering with any views.
Okay, and the lighting that you propose, has that been analyzed to figure, will it make any glaring on the drivers coming out of the property that would impede their seeing ongoing traffic on Prospect?
I'm sorry, the proposed light,
right, the lighting that you say you're going to put on top of
the lights are all have they're LED, so I won't say house side shields, but they're directional and won't be the light won't be directed towards the road. And our light level plan demonstrates the light levels within the area of the project.
Okay. And I need to ask, was a traffic engineer utilized to look at this and give their expert opinion as to the traffic and the flow?
No, not specifically. No,
Not changing.
no. We're maintaining what's there with some improvements.
Okay. And my last question, sir, is there any intention to put any sidewalks in front of the property here, that any sidewalks that do not exist now, would there be any intention of adding or repairing or putting in additional sidewalks?
Currently, there's not part of this project, and I believe that would be something the county would have to propose.
Okay.
You know, but that said, there's nothing in the area of the project to connect to. So no, we were not proposing any new sidewalks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chairman. I do. And I'm not sure if this testimony, but will there be any testimony that if there are any hazardous trees anywhere in the outlying area adjacent to the property, will that be addressed? I've heard from residents concerned about hazardous trees.
I don't know if I can speak to hazardous trees. I know that I can't, as the engineer, I can't really speak to it, but from past hearings, I understand if there's any hazardous trees that was on the golf club property, the golf club would typically be willing to address the matter.
You know what? Can I stop you? Who's talking? Is it Mr. Tremolak or is it a witness that hasn't been sworn in yet?
No, it's Mr. Derek.
Okay, because I'm having a hard time. I see a group of people and then I don't see it because of this screen sharing. I can't see
Yeah, I
him.
apologize.
Okay. Oh, because it's all right. Because you're on mute on my screen, but yet you're in that room with them. Is that what's going on?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
I apologize for the confusion.
But thank you for answering the question about the hazardous trees. So you may have to bring that to your attention.
Any other questions, Mayor?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Klein?
I was part of the SPRAB, so I think they addressed my comment in the entrance because they're reconfiguring it slightly, but I think they've got enough stop lines, stop signs to control the traffic at that T intersection. That sort of actually more like a four-way intersection. So I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan?
Yes, my concerns have been addressed already.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Smeraldo?
Yeah, Chairman, I just question about the stormwater management. The plans that's all been filed with the DEP, or do you have to file with the DEP or anything with of that nature?
No, there's no DEP permitting required for this project.
Okay. Other than that, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoza?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was testimony that there would be no changes to ADA parking, but there was proposal to add one additional EV charging station.
Yes.
So that would mean both ADA and EV parking would be in compliance with town ordinances and requirements?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Capper, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do have a couple questions. One was the one that Vice Chairman Garino already asked, which was about sidewalks along Prospect Avenue. Was also curious about that, but I heard your answer to that question. Could you speak to? I was thinking a bit about both the ADA accessibility. Could you speak to the accessible path into the building, and then additionally for the drivers and passengers who'd be getting out of the cars in this 15 spaces near Prospect Avenue, how they would get into the building, or just their path into the space.
Sure. The existing ADA parking for, in this area is located along the turnaround in this location, and the entrance to the clubhouse is right here underneath the porte cochere. And there's an ADA ramp that was installed roughly 10, 15 years ago as part of another site plan application that people can use. Additionally, there's another ADA path out to some of the patio areas that can also be accessed from these ADA parking spaces. Additionally, the two ADA parking spaces here, users would walk up the driveway to use the same ADA ramp. And people parking here would likely walk out and, using the drive aisles, walk up to the clubhouse or to the golf areas, similar to how all the rest of the parking facility is used.
And have there been any issues with, those who've been using the handicap accessible spaces? I guess the concern I have is a little bit with people walking kind of in the drive aisles, especially like the access drive. Have there been any issues to your knowledge of any complaints or any issues with that?
Nothing that's been brought to my attention.
Okay. Thank you. And then I do have one question about stormwater management as well. Did you complete a geotechnical report as a part of, I think you said you're proposing, it says this on the plan, the porous asphalt out front.
We've begun an investigation, and we'll provide the results to the town shortly. And if there's any changes required, we will make them. But the initial results we have fall in line with the assumptions we've made.
Okay, thank you. Those are the only questions I had.
Thank you. I have a question. So would it change the plan drastically if you put a sidewalk along Prospect Avenue? Would that change the places where you have the new parking spots?
No, not that I believe so. The property line is here. There is the county does have a reservation line, which is the stash line, but they've allowed us to do work within that reservation line. But if they didn't need to put a sidewalk in, there is room to put a sidewalk in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Mr. Derek, you mentioned the circulation on the site and went through the different stop areas, and so that would help to prevent excessive stacking. And so, were you able to take a look at my report and the consideration that I mentioned that, asked if you would consider in terms of the circulation on the site?
I did see your report. The hesitation we have for making this drive aisle a one-way is that we're trying not to introduce additional traffic underneath the porte cochere where people are being dropped off typically. And so if someone's parking here, we want to give them the option to get out without having to go underneath the porte cochere. That was the consideration we made. And then additionally, I think you had some comments about this middle driveway here. Yeah. Typically, the majority of the traffic comes through this driveway, the southernmost driveway. This driveway is typically used for people who are dining, leaving valet parking, but also more critically for the club. The service area and food deliveries are made at this point here. So all the food service trucks come in and use this driveway as is. So that's what we're looking to maintain, the current driveway, although it's not something standard you typically see. This is how the club functions today, and will need to continue to function in the future.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that this has been in existence for quite some time, and it's been if it's not broken, don't fix it. But in my opinion, you're making a substantial change by introducing these 15 spaces here, and I was a bit concerned that especially with the ingress at that center spot, that center ingress point, that you may have created an opportunity for conflict with cars coming off the new 15 space area as well as cars coming from the circular driveway. That was my concern. Not so much any cars exiting from that central, but the cars coming in. So that was my concern. Sorry?
No, nothing, sorry.
All right. The other question I had was I'm familiar with some of the species of landscaping proposed on the frontage along the wall, the line of the wall that's proposed in the front. Generally, is the intent that the foliage that's put there, the landscaping that's put there, will cover the wall, get to a height above the wall? What are you looking at in terms of when the vegetation is fully?
The intention is for it just to be low landscaping, not to cover the wall.
Okay, so it would not even get as high as the 3 foot height.
No. No.
Okay,
The club would maintain it, so it wouldn't.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hess, do you have any questions for Mr. Derrick?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions for the testimony that was just provided? Please raise your hand and be identified. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Derrick about the testimony that was just provided? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, someone's hand was up and then it went back down. So we'll give it another shot. Any member of the public who has any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, Mr. DiArco, welcome to the meeting. Can you hear us? And please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Joseph DiArco, Township Manager of Verona. I have a question on the stormwater runoff drainage. Mr. Derrick said it doesn't require a DEP review or approval. Obviously, Verona is always concerned of runoff from the golf course. Did you hear that?
Mr. Derrick, did you hear that?
I could hear that. I apologize. Was there a question?
Mr. DiArco, would you put that in the form of a question?
Yes. You indicated the DEP doesn't have to review the stormwater runoff management plan for the golf course in this project. Is that correct?
Correct.
And of those part of the plans that can be reviewed by Verona.
We've submitted all our plans and calculations to the town for review. Mr. Hess has viewed them as a major development. We're subject to the same rules to the New Jersey State Stormwater Management rules that were in place at the time of submission and are similar to same as the rules that are in the town code. So in that sense, we're subject to the same things.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiArco. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Derrick about his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Garino. Yes, sir.
I'd like to, if I could add one more request, just from a point of view, we in West Orange are trying to create the walkable community. And we always like to, and we ask all our new develops, any renovations, any, improvements, stuff like that, to consider putting in sidewalks where sidewalks do not exist, to allow our pedestrians, it's goodwill. And that's all we're asking, because that's our whole goal in our complete streets in Vision Zero. And a street like Pleasant Valley Way, a road like Prospect, is heavily traveled. So I'm asking, would the club consider thinking about adding sidewalks to the front of the property?
I don't know. I can't speak for the club as the engineer.
No, I understand. But I would wonder if the club itself and its administration would consider it's a goodwill thing.
Yeah, I would just like to point out though that there are no sidewalks on either side, on the West Orange side of the golf club property. In front of the residence inn and the manor, there's no sidewalks to connect to.
I know, but it's always a start. But
I understand. I understand.
Okay. Well, I like to ask, so I asked, and so I hope the golf club administration considers it. We'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Derek.
Thank
Mr. Gregulak, you're up. Sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My next witness is Brian Cooney.
Cooney, yep, that's right.
Brian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Mr. Dover,
I'm on mute, yeah. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Brian, would you provide the board with your professional qualifications and your educational background, please?
Sure. I have a master's in architecture from Catholic University in Washington, D.C. I've been a licensed architect since 2016 in New Jersey and New York.
And what is your current business affiliation?
I am a project architect at Etcher Writing Architects and work here on this project.
Okay, are you familiar with this project? Your office prepared the architectural plans for the two buildings.
I am, yes. I contributed to creating these plans.
Have you appeared before other planning boards and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have.
All right. Approximately how many times?
One time.
Okay. Well, and were your qualifications accepted as an architect in the field of architecture?
I just have one question. Your license is in good standing in the state of New Jersey presently. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And unless do any members of the board have any questions about Mr. Rudding's credentials? Seeing none, we accept you as an architect licensed in the state of New Jersey, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, would you review the architectural plans that have been presented in this application for the halfway house and the expansion of the golf building?
Yes, let me pull up our filed architectural drawings. I don't know if you can see my screen. I have drawing H1 up, and I'll be testifying to the two structures that are discussed in this application. This current structure is the halfway house, which is located between the 9th hole on this side, 10th hole on this side, and it is, as Mr. Tremulak said earlier in the testimony, that it is an 840 square foot building. That includes all the enclosed walls on the interior of this building here. So any enclosed wall within this portion of the building is within that 840 square feet. There is 1,780 square feet of covered porch for roof cover for people dining and using the halfway house. So the total under roof of this structure is 2,600 square feet of a single story structure. There's no access above, it's a single story structure. The halfway house includes accessible ADA bathrooms, a janitor's closet, which you can see in the middle, a prep kitchen for the serving area here. There's a serving area and bar open to the covered porch area, and that includes it services all the members, includes pizza oven, grill, snacks, refreshments for your halfway house and after golf needs here. And this is a completely open kitchen, but when service is over, there's shutter doors that roll down and secure this whole entire part of the building. The building, as we've drawn it, I'm going to skip to the next page. It is page H2. You can see elevations of the halfway house. We tried to stay consistent with the other accessory buildings on the club campus, and we tried to stay with the same architectural materials and language of the campus as well. So the main materials of the building are composite clapboard siding and shingle siding. We would use an architectural roof shingle, which would be a slate-like shingle that would also match similar roof types on the campus. Around the building, you can see there's this covered porch for people to shelter under. You can't access it above. It's decorative only. And the railing up top is put there because, again, we want to blend it in with other buildings on the Montclair campus.
What, I'm sorry, you can continue.
No, go ahead.
Well, my question was, what is the height of that proposed building?
So the height of the proposed building is 23 foot 4 inches, and we felt that it was in the same scale as all the buildings on campus that are adjacent to it, and in some cases it's shorter than a few of the buildings right there. The roof above houses the mechanical systems of the down below use, so we feel like it's a necessity to have the roof at this height.
Okay, so the 22-foot height was due to the need to have mechanical systems in the upper.
Sorry, yes. Let me correct myself. 22 foot height to the
okay.
ridge. Yeah. It's kind of hard to read.
Your testimony that you needed the additional height in order to have room for the mechanical systems on the upper floor?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And is the height of that building relatively consistent with the height of the other accessory buildings on the golf club property?
Yes, the adjacent buildings in the clubhouse, it is consistent with the heights and a bit shorter than a few areas.
Okay. You want to continue with the plans? I guess you've got the building expansion next, or?
Right. So the building expansion is next. That is the pro shop. So we are on page P1 of the filed architectural plans. I've drawn a line on this plan just to be clear what's new and existing. As Mr. Derek mentioned earlier, that on the left side of the building, we are demolishing part of the building. So the pool accessory rooms and structures over here that were no longer in use will be demolished on the plan left side. And then the new addition portion is, if you can see this thin red line here, on the north side of that line, the top of that line, this is all new addition. So the pro shop, get square footages for you. It's the existing square footage is 4,800 square feet. These are ballpark numbers. I can provide exact numbers if you'd like. We are removing from the left side 1,600 square feet of space with the pool accessory rooms getting removed. So the remaining part of the building is 3,200, and our intent in this back portion is to add 1,730 square feet of the building to expand the pro shop and the simulator area. So the net add of the space is about 138 square feet of the building. So we're not making the building incredibly larger, just kind of reallocating space. The building houses the existing pro shop, which we would expand. The starter, so you come and get your starting time. The bag storage area here, some accessory buildings to the bag storage, and a new golf simulator, 2 simulators and lounge, and offices in the back, and back of house areas to support the pro shop. We're introducing a new portico here for the entry arrival, and a covered portion here for the staff to stage for all the golfers. So, excuse me.
No, I'm sorry. I was talking to someone else.
Okay.
Brian, just a quick question, just orient the board. The bottom of that plan is the front of the building, which, correct me if I'm wrong, faces Prospect Avenue. Is that right?
Correct. So if you look directly down from this, it's Prospect Ave, straight down. Okay. So down below here is the parking lot, and the halfway house is up here. And I'll be showing after this, I'll be showing 3D images that can orient everybody as to where our buildings are located.
So the addition is to the rear of the building, which would be facing the golf course, correct?
Correct. So the rear of the building here is the new addition. It's facing the 9th hole here and the halfway house. So the only new portion of work would be that would be visible from the Prospect Ave side would be the starter portico entry and this side covered porch area. Okay. Let me move on to the architectural elevations to explain the additions and modifications to this building. Starting in the top left, number 1, this is page P3, the architectural drawings. This is the golf bag storage area. This is the portion of the building where we would be removing a portion of the building. This is the side where we would remove structure from the pool side, from the left side of the building, and we are adding this decorative rail to tie in with the halfway house and other portions of the building, and add coverage for the golf staff and people staging the golfers underneath, so it keeps people dry before they get out in the round. It also would have scoring underneath and access in here to the golf bag storage room. So you enter in through the starter booth in the front of the building facing Prospect Ave, and you would continue underneath this covered roof to continue on to your golf round. This is moving on to number 2. This is the new portico and starter booth where you would arrive and speak to someone in the booth and figure out when your tea time is. And this is a new portico roof and addition to the front of the building for arrival purposes. Moving to number 3, this is the rear facing. So this is facing the golf course and the halfway house. So in the back of the building, this is the new addition portion, what you would see from that vantage point. There's windows for offices. The pros office is here. The simulator is located in this blank wall area, and then this is the simulator lounge. Again, all similar finishes as the halfway house and the campus, where it'd be composite clapboard siding, architectural shingle roof, and generally matching the aesthetic of the campus. The final elevation on the page, page number 4, this is about a bit of a mix of both new and existing. This is the existing pro shop. You move back to the plan, you can see this octagon structure. We're looking now at this view here. So you can see the 2 entries into the pro shop. You can see here's the new entry, and this is the new addition portion. You can see we are keeping with the existing roof lines and working with the existing building to not increase the roof height anywhere on this building.
What is the height of the building addition, and how does the height of the addition compare to the height of the existing golf building?
So the existing building, where there's a few different roof pitches on this roof, the existing roof median kind of peak here, if you can see my cursor, is 20'2". This peak is 24'8" for this octagon structure. And I don't have this one listed, but it's about a foot shorter, 1.5 shorter here. And then on the other side, as I mentioned, there's multiple roof peaks on this building. On the new addition side, the highest peak of the ridge is 19'8". And finally, moving on to our filed renderings, just this will give a clear picture of everything I just spoke about. Let's see, I am on page R1, and on page R1, we're viewing the both buildings from the parking lot. This is the golf cart staging area and where the existing building was. This is the new portico for the starter right here, and this is the covered entry for golf staging and the entrance to the golf bag room. And then in the distance, you can see the halfway house and the covered porch beyond. You can see the peaks here. We're utilizing these existing ridges and continuing them around. This is just an enlarged view of that front portico. You can see we included some decorative elements and point of arrival. When you get to the golf course, starter booth beyond, the pro shop, you can access through a pathway through here and around, and you can access the halfway house through this covered porch. And moving further into that golf cart storage areas, so you can see this is the covered staging area with the scoring within it, and enlarged view of the halfway house. This is page R3. And page R4, a couple different views of the halfway house. I'm going to zoom into the top left. This is coming off of the 9th hole arrival onto the halfway house, and you'd be able to park your golf cart and come in, get your refreshments, and then move on to 10. As you can see, it's a lot of under coverage for shaded dining. And then on the bottom of the page that was filed, this is the rear of the halfway house, which is a bit downhill, and you can see that it's a full wraparound porch. Now, page R5, this is a view from the rear grass area. It's a bit of an aerial view. You can see this is the parking lot in the distance with cars, and you can see the dining area and the open. This is the open kitchen below, and this is the small portion of the golf clubhouse. And then finally, a full aerial from the parking lot side. You can see kind of multiple portions of the golf campus. You can see the 9th hole. You can see this is the altered building with the golf amenities in it and the new portico. The existing pro shop is in this portion. Golf staging is in this area, and golf cart staging is in this area, and the halfway house is located back here with interconnected walkways.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Brian? I don't have any additional questions.
I don't think so. I think I have basically everything covered for the testimony I've written. So
yeah, I think you covered everything. And no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Rohning, on the roofs, are these going to be roofs that will decrease the heat island effect?
I don't believe they will. So are you indicating the flat roofs or the
and any of the material? Like we usually want a white roof or a roof that decreases the heat island effect.
So for the flat roofs, we were indicating you can see it's white, where we were completely trying to reduce the heat island effect. The roofs for all the other structures, we were matching the existing aesthetic everywhere on the campus. So I can't imagine it would greatly increase the heat island effect with the new roof technology. Can't really speak to that, but where we can reduce it, we are trying to.
Okay. And all the glass and windows are low E glass and windows?
That's our intention, yeah.
Okay. Members of the board, do you have any questions? Vice Chairman Garino?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Garino. Mayor McCartney?
Thank you, Chairman. 2 comments, 2 questions. One, Mr. Roding, I think that this is a very stately and consistent architectural design for the halfway house. And I'm just curious if you have a word that is synonymous to halfway house that we could use. This has come up before. In your experience, is there a different word that we can use for a halfway house?
Yeah, there's people, excuse me, refreshment center or,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good. Thank you for that. I have no problem with the proposed height for the pro shop and the simulator areas, but I didn't see where you said that you were taking 1,600 square feet away from the pool accessory use. Is that being relocated somewhere else? I didn't, and I'm sorry.
No, so that was so Mr. Derek, he testified to the portion of the building that was going to be demolished. So currently, somehow I'm sharing my screen. If I could share my screen. So the existing pool is currently right here, and the pool portion of the building was right here that we're demolishing. So when I said we're reallocating space, we're demolishing 1,600 and we're adding 1,730. So we're moving a portion of square footage and we're moving it to the back of the building.
Right at that space. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Geraldo, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's my typical ones regarding the mechanicals. You mentioned in the halfway house or the refreshment center, whatever we're going to call it tonight. The mechanicals. What is going to be up in those roof areas? That's why you need.
So the HVAC units will be up there, and the air ventilation will be up there.
Okay, and I was looking at the plans previously. So there's going to be grease light and vapors there. Between the pizza oven, the grill, and everything else, there's going to be suppression systems, hoods, and all that stuff.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and since that is a standalone structure, and it's kind of far away from the building, we've been one of the things this board has been doing lately is trying for public safety is to say that we need defibrillators, things of that nature. This is not going to be further out of the course like some other places, but since it is far enough away. I think that's something we would suggest or request that be made a condition for that particular unit because it's further away. What about communication? Is there going to be any telephones, things of that nature? Because the other thing we do is when there's distance like that, we've been now asking for there's those 911 prompt wireless systems, but I don't know if this is going to warrant here because it's kind of close to the clubhouse. That's why I'm asking the question.
Well, yeah, and they will have a phone system in there. So the kitchen, within the kitchen, staff members will have their own connected phone to the main clubhouse, and they'll be able to call out from there.
Okay. So that's my question for that building. The other building, I'm still going to ask the same thing. Now, this is an existing building you're adding to. Is this subject to retrofit under the fire code?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so it'll be brought up to whatever requirements are needed, whether it be alarm, suppression, anything of that nature. Correct.
Yep. Right. Okay. So fire strobes and all will all be brought up to code.
And trusses in both buildings, I'm assuming.
I believe this one is stick built. The existing, the new building, I'm not sure. I don't think we've decided the structure of the building yet.
Okay, just for the record, is that if it is trusted, that we make sure that it gets included with whatever requirements are needed with placards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No suppression systems. As far as water, right? Like no sprinklers, nothing like that. Correct?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. And is there going to be any areas that are going to need to put fire lane striping anywhere?
Fire lane striping. I would defer to Mr. Derek on that one. I don't believe so, but I'll defer to Mr. Derek on that one.
Okay. I think if it's an area that needs to have it, I know we're looking for decor, but we also have to look at safety. So, whatever we have to put in there for that. I think I've asked my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question on your questions. Are you suggesting that it's a condition that they have an AED and a 911 wireless system?
No, I'm not going to suggest a wireless system. I'm going to make it a requirement for at least the halfway house to have an AED in there because that's far enough away. I'll leave it up to the board if they want to throw one in the golf house. If they're buying one, they can buy two. And then condition. I think if there's required fire lane striping, then that's got to be put in. And we'll ask their expert about that. Other than that, I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smeraldo. Mr. Cardoza.
None at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. Ms. Capfer.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank
Ms.
you.
Capfer. Mr. Hazel.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel. Mr. Hess.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Rorting on his presentation? Please raise your hand and be identified. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Rorting on his presentation? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised, and please be advised that Council President Bill Rutherford has entered the meeting.
Let the record show Council President Rutherford during the meeting. Yamilet. Welcome, Council President.
Thank you, Chairman.
Am I here? Mr. Trembulac, you're up, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My next and final witness is Greg Woodruff.
Mr. Woodruff, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Woodruff, would you provide your educational background and professional qualifications for the board?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. My name, just again, Greg Woodruff with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services. I'm an associate principal at the firm. I've been there a little less than 20 years. Been a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey since 2008. My license is in good standing. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have testified before, I don't know the exact number. It's probably in excess of 50 or 60 boards throughout the state for different matters, been accepted as an expert in professional planning. I believe I may have actually appeared before this board for another application at the club in the past, actually, some years ago. So with that, I don't know if there's any other questions.
The chair offering Mr. Woodruff as an expert in the field of professional planning.
Unless any members of the board have any questions, we accept Mr. Woodruff as licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. You have the floor, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. I don't know that you need to talk too much about the project site or the proposed improvements that have already been discussed with the board. I think it would be helpful if you could discuss the zoning for the golf club property and then identify and discuss the variances that are being requested as part of this application and provide your opinion regarding whether those variances are appropriate under the relevant standards.
Sure, will do. As you mentioned, with the board's indulgence, there's been quite a bit of testimony about the existing conditions, the proposed project. I'd like to highlight just a couple things. As mentioned at the very outset, we are in the R2 district. The principal and accessory uses are permitted. And I think from a planning perspective, the only other condition that I would just highlight again, it was talked about, but the distance, setback distance from Prospect Ave to both the golf building as well as the refreshment center, because I think that plays into some of the planning justification that goes into the variances that relate to those two buildings. So with that, Mr. Trembulac, as you asked, I'll get right to the three variances that we're requesting. Again, just to refresh memories and summarize them, it relates to two height issues, one for the golf house expansion, the other for the refreshment center, in which both are exceeding the permitted 15 feet in height. The architect summarized and showed in great detail the design of those two building structures. In my perspective, I'll discuss them sort of jointly because I think the planning justification for each is similar. I believe they both would fall under what is typically referred to as the C2 criteria under the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law, whereby the benefits of the deviation outweigh any detriments or perceived detriments. Again, the architect discussed how the buildings are certainly in keeping with the rest of the campus, the heights of, the building, the existing golf building that's being tied into, as well as for the refreshment center buildings that are nearby and adjacent to that refreshment center building. So from a planning perspective, I would offer that the benefit of those buildings being in scale relative to mass and height outweighs the any perceived detriment of technically exceeding that allowed 15-foot height. I would also offer, as I highlighted at the beginning, the setback distance from Prospect Ave plays into that planning analysis. The buildings are set quite a distance back from Prospect, which is the only road whereby anybody would be able to see the buildings because the rest of the property is really internal to the golf course. And in the case of the golf building expansion, it is completely screened by the existing golf building. So from that perspective, again, the benefit of those buildings being in keeping in height and in scale with the overall campus would outweigh any detriment or perceived detriment. And the third variance that the application includes relates, as was discussed, to the wall area at the front of the property. It's proposed as a 3-foot solid decorative wall, whereby it's only permitted or not permitted to be more than 50% solid. Again, in this case, I would, from a planning perspective, argue that the variance falls under a C2 criteria, whereby the benefit of that wall being incorporated into the property as part of this proposed project outweighs the detriment of the wall being solid in nature. It was mentioned the wall is going to be highly decorative. It will create a bit of a buffer where that condition doesn't exist currently, and the parking is essentially very visible from Prospect Ave. It's going to be landscaped and will be, highly architectural in nature, so will be visually appealing right at the front edge of the property. I would also offer, I am not a traffic engineer, but just thinking about it from a layman's perspective, there will be some shielding of headlights of cars that might be parked in the golf course parking lot that would happen as a result of that wall, which is obviously an additional benefit. So in my perspective, from a planning analysis, that buffering and that architectural improvement would outweigh the detriment of that wall being more solid than the code permits. I'd offer that there are a couple purposes of the municipal land use law that are furthered. I would offer two specifically. Number G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses, including recreational. In this case, according to, I'm sorry. Sorry, maybe that was just a random noise. Sorry, I thought somebody was asking a question. In this case, I would offer that the proposed improvements clearly enhance the existing recreational use, which would further that purpose G. And the second that I would highlight is purpose I, to promote a desirable, visual environment and create through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. Again, we've talked about the overall design of the proposed buildings, as well as the wall, and how they are part of an overall aesthetically pleasing design for the improvements at the course. And I think would definitely fall into furthering that purpose. Relative to the negative criteria, in my opinion, there's no substantial detriment to the public good. Again, the building improvements are set considerably back from the road. In the case of the expansion, it is completely screened from visibility from the road. And in the case of the wall, there will be certainly, as was questioned, issues relative to site triangles, things like that. There should not be impacts to the public good related to issues along those lines. And the accessory buildings do not create issues related to light, air, open space, other things that would be public concerns. And in addition, there's no substantial impairment to the intent or purpose of the zone plan. Again, the accessory buildings, the principal use are all permitted. The accessory buildings will further improve the efficiency and use of the existing campus. And there is a specific goal 9 in the 2019 master plan update, which states to promote a desirable visual environment, just generally. And I think clearly the proposal here, the proposed improvements here would generally fall in line with that master plan goal for the township in general. So I would say Mr. Tremblay, Mr. Chairman, from my perspective, in completing the planning analysis, the proof standards would be met and the board would be justified in granting the variances requested. And with that, I'm happy to try and answer questions.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just want to turn your attention, maybe you can speak to this, where I think it's quite important, and nobody said anything. On page 4 of the Nishuane Group report, there is an entire half a page on landscaping. So just for informational purposes, the public should know that there's a lot of landscaping going on, and the board should know there's a lot of landscaping going on here. So it is not just changing buildings, which is, I believe, important when we look at these plans. How are we going to landscape, increase trees, shrubs, bushes that are native to the area? So I think, do you agree with me, sir?
I would definitely agree. I believe Mr. Derrick referenced specifically some of the plantings, and there was a question about some of the plantings relative to the wall. But in general, yeah, at one point, I believe Mr. Derrick even brought up the landscaping plan, and there's quite a bit, as you reference here in this list, quite a bit of landscaping that will, of course, go in around these proposed buildings. So yes, I would agree.
I just want to make sure that we got that out there so we all, and the public.
Appreciate it.
So to that, Mr. Vice Chairman Garino, do you have any questions?
Just give me a second, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at my notes. Can you come back to me, Mr. Chairman,
I'll
please?
come back to you. Mayor McCartney.
I really don't have any questions, Chairman, but thank you for bringing up the landscaping plan. It is quite extensive. I was just looking, my question initially was about any hazardous trees that need to be looked at in the around the adjacent properties.
And we'll make that a condition of the application that the forester reviews with the management any noxious or problematic trees in the area.
Okay, I have a question. In the area or anywhere on the golf course?
It was around the golf course, yes.
Anywhere around the golf course.
Not necessarily on Prospect Avenue.
Anywhere around the golf course. On the west orange side of the golf course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Council President Rutherford, do you have any questions?
This time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smeraldo, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any questions?
None at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Klepfer, do you have any questions?
I do have one question. I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Woodruff, but your comments about the landscaping reminded me that I thought I saw somewhere that one of the shrubs that was proposed is actually an invasive species. Is there anyone that can comment on that?
So how about if we condition this on speaking to the forester and ensuring that there are no invasive species that will be planted for this application? Okay. Can we agree with that? Well, let somebody say yes, please.
Yes.
Yes. I like that. Yes. I like affirmative action. Good stuff. Okay. Ms. Capper, is that okay? Good condition?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel. Mr. Hess, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Woodruff on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, you were going to return to Vice Chairman Garino.
I'm sorry, Vice Chairman Garino. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It just gets back to me, Mr. Chairman, and to Mr. Woodruff. And what you say is true, and the improvements are very nice and beneficial, and aesthetically pleasing and everything else. But it just goes also. It's like, and I'm not being altruistic. What I'm saying is that our township, along with many of the other townships in the state of New Jersey, are going to the whole thing of Vision Zero and complete streets. West Orange was the leader in complete streets. And Complete Streets also talks about as Vision Zero and a roadway like Prospect, which is a highly traveled road. And we are trying to make West Orange the walkability. And I just keep putting the issue as I believe to make this project complete and to make you more of a community involvement and goodwill is to put into the fact of adding sidewalks, whether the manor is going to do something whenever, but that time will come. And it would be a great benefit and it'd be looked on favorably by the West Orange community, particularly our residents who walk, to include sidewalks within your landscaping and in the front of the building. That's where I'm coming from. I may be, pushing the issue, but the fact is we've taken the lead with all our intersections, with a lot of our neighborhoods, and adding sidewalks where there never were sidewalks before. Now you're doing new work. So at this opportunity, this would be a great thing to add the sidewalks. And I have to go back to the fact is it is goodwill and it's looked favorably upon the residents, not only of West Orange, but in the next town over, Verona. They walk there too. So I'd like you to consider that. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know how we can put this in to whenever we make a decision, but I'm not going to say it anymore, but I would really like to see the issue of sidewalks in this project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Woodruff on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Woodruff.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. And we are now back to Mr. Trembulac. You're up, sir.
That completes our case, Mr. Chairman. We have no further witnesses or evidence to present.
Thank you. Okay, do any members of the public have any comments on this application? Please raise your hand and be identified. Do any members of the public have any comments on this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Mr. Chairman, we have an individual for Oranges. Please, welcome to the meeting. Please state your full name and address for the record, and please unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Darren Tobia. Good evening, board. I just wanted to commend Mr. Guarino for emphasizing the importance of pedestrian infrastructure here. I really hope that the applicant considers the importance of that. It's more than goodwill, I believe. It really ensures the safety of not only our residents but all the residents who use this very busy thoroughfare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Woodruff on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
There are no hands raised, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll close that portion of the meeting. Okay. So, Ms. McGovern, let's review any conditions, and then we'll go through the
Well, the first
variances.
The first condition is that an AED be provided at the refreshment center. There also is that the forester must review any noxious trees or vegetation anywhere on the golf course on the West Orange portion of it. And the landscape plan must be reviewed by the forester to make sure that there are no invasive species.
Okay. And that the
There was I think left up in the air, the 911 wireless communication. I didn't know you were still
I don't think you
deciding
need.
that.
I mean, personally, I don't think you need that. I would like to see an AED there, though. That would make sense. Everybody has a cell phone, and it's not far back from the main clubhouse. Also, they agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Trembulac, that you agreed to adopt the memorandum for June 4th, 2024 from CME Associates, all the recommendations?
Yes, I think our engineer agreed that he would comply with the comments and recommendations. There might be a few things he may want to discuss with the engineer, but in the end, we will comply.
Okay. Let's go through I'll go through the variances for the board, and you guys can type in. So the The two buildings are far enough away based on testimony from the roadway and are consistent with other buildings of the same height in the area. And even though they're accessory structures, the golf course is using them, and they would like to have a nice visage. There's going to be, based on testimony, mechanics in the top portion of the buildings. The C2 variance, the benefits outweigh the detriments. Personally, I don't see a detriment in this area based on it is not visual. There's no visual pact or limited visual pact to the roadway. It's keeping in with the advancement of the zone plan. It's making better for the people at the golf course and their guests. There is no detriment to the public good. The wall in front is basically, again, from testimony, aesthetically pleasing. It may, I'm not saying 100%, but may decrease car lights to the roadway. The benefits seem to outweigh the detriments. So I would recommend we give the 3 C2 variances. And do any other members of the board have any comment? Oh, and the flat roofs would be white roofs. The all window panes will be thermopane, low E. What else? And would the applicant consider a walkway in front of the site? And you guys talk about that while we go through the, do any of the members of the board have any other conditions or thoughts?
In front of the site.
Mr. Chairman, Council President has his hand raised.
Council President Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Fagan. I just wanted to echo Mr. Garino's sentiment. I thought that was an outstanding idea. I don't know if it can be required, but it received just some minor treatment just now. I don't want it to be overlooked. If that's something that we can require, not just encourage in this project, I think we should. So I don't know if this is the right moment to do that, but would certainly like to amplify what the Vice Chair suggested just a moment ago with regard to sidewalks.
Council President, this is exactly the right moment to do it. So again, gentlemen, while you're sitting there, you're hearing the thoughts on the board, and eventually we're hoping that in the future you will connect all the way south along your entire property. That would be very helpful. However, as much as you can do now would make a lot of sense. So to that, do any other members of the board have any questions, discussion, comments? Seeing none.
Well, Chairman, I'm going to advocate.
I'm sorry,
for the
Ms.
same thing.
Ms. Capper first, then Mayor McCartney.
Sure.
I agree with Council President Rutherford and also with Vice Chairman Garino that now's the time for sidewalks. If every time there's a development that comes in, we say, oh, there's nothing here, and we're going to wait till the next time, and keeps pointing the finger to the next group. We know that there are more developments that are going to come in along Prospect, and we've been waiting. So would really appreciate if you could put the sidewalks in now.
Okay. Does any other member have any other question, comment, or suggestion? Otherwise, Mr. Trembulac, what are the thoughts?
I try to speak to that issue on behalf of my client. First of all, we're talking about a long stretch of frontage and a substantial expense if sidewalks were to be put in along the entire golf club property fronting on Prospect. And I don't know whether this is an issue that would really be within the purview of the county. The county is going to have to review this application.
I'm sorry, Mr. Trembulac. I'm thinking right now, just in front of the parking lot where we're starting, as Mr. Garino said, let's start in a small area. We don't want to make this a major expense. And yes, you do have to speak to the county. However, the area where you're adding the new parking, would that make sense, Mr. Garino?
Just in front of the clubhouse?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we can agree to that.
Okay. It's a start, and we appreciate very much the discussion and you agreeing to this. It's a very, very good start. And what else can we say? Do any of the
Mr. Chairman, Mayor McCartney had
Mayor McCartney.
It was the same thing. It was a condition for the sidewalks. I advocate the same thing for the Pedestrian Safety Commission on behalf of the Pedestrian Safety Commission and Vision Zero and Complete Streets and everything that the township has been working toward. I would like to see that as a condition as well.
Excellent. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, Council President Rutherford has his hand up.
Council President Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the financial impact on doing the sidewalks, the entire length of the property to the West Orange, to the West Orange property line. But I do think it's important. It's not likely, to Ms. Kapferer's point a moment ago, it's not likely that down the road there will be another opportunity for us to get these sidewalks so that when the next development actually does come along, that they're all tied together. It doesn't really do us much good to have just a portion of the sidewalk that doesn't connect to the adjoining properties. And while it is a tremendous financial, it may be a tremendous financial cost. I get that. I don't really know as a layperson, but I think the risk to public safety outweighs that. And this is something, at least as long as I am on the planning board, I will be advocating for, along with several of others that have been on the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. And I will remind us that we just had a presentation maybe 2 months ago where we as a town committed to being a Vision Zero town. This is going to go a long way, I think, in helping in that corridor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President. And I agree with you. That makes a lot of sense. However, I do know that sidewalks cost a lot of money. And I want you to focus on the application before us, because that would make sense that we're seeing this application and we're asking for this, and the golf club has agreed to it. And they're also understanding that as they do projects in the future, maybe they will also consider putting some more sidewalk in as we go forward and eventually meet up with other sidewalks in town. So that is our goal and Vision Zero. And to the members that are sitting before us from the Montclair Country Club, we appreciate your helping out. So the question to the members of the board, do you want to have complete sidewalks all the way to where their property stops southerly, or would you like, as I proposed, to have just for the project that we have now? Mr. Klein.
Get them to do it in phases, maybe spread it out over a few years.
Well, as they come
Like
for
2,000
other projects,
feet.
as they come for other projects, they can incorporate it into their budget. It would probably make it easier for them to accomplish the goal. I understand that we don't talk about dollars and cents, but we have to be mindful of what the club is doing for its members and the township, and it's upgrading and it's improving traffic and it's doing a lot of other greenery. So I want to strike a balance.
I think I can speak on behalf of the club.
It hasn't been here in over 100 years, and we're moving forward in phases. Okay. Anybody who wants complete, I'm sorry, Mr. Cardoza.
No, I would just say that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say that, yes, I echo the sentiment of my fellow board members in definitely desiring the additional sidewalks and owing to, I would say in agreement with what you've stated regarding the expense and speed at which, the rate at which we're moving here, considering the time that the club has been in operation, I would just say yes, your proposal regarding just worrying about the frontage, I would agree with that.
Thank you. Okay, unless there's a disagreement, we'll keep it at the frontage as the members of the Montclair Country Club committee.
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I do disagree. I'm not opposed to Mr. Klein's suggestion that it be done in some period of time, but I think we do need to be certain and have a plan for the sidewalk along that entire corridor. We have a major development at the mall just down the road. I mean, there's just, and we have, potential development in other spaces in between. I think we are doing ourselves a disservice if we don't make a plan to do the entire portion, even if it's not all done right now. I think we should be clear about what the time frame to get it done is going to be. And I know we won't, I don't, it may take 10 years for them to do another project that would require either a variance or some work along that particular roadway. And the last thought I had is, while the golf course has been there for quite some time, the town has certainly grown. And we are now moving in a direction to be more walkable and pedestrian friendly. So I think this is the opportunity for us to at least get the plan. Mr. Klein made, I thought, a reasonable, he struck a reasonable balance there. If you don't want to do the entire thing right now for cost purposes, let's figure out what a reasonable time frame is to get the entire sidewalk done. That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Cardoza.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Mr. Chairman, can we clarify the scope of, what we as a board can really do? I mean, our district, we're basically polling among ourselves for our...
That's Mr. Cardoza, good question. So I'm going to ask Ms. McGovern. We have an application before us for a small portion of the frontage of the club. Can we now say we want the rest of it done also?
I'm looking through your site plan ordinance, and I think I need help from either Mr. Hess or Mr. Hazel in terms of, I don't see something in the site plan ordinance that obligates an applicant to put a sidewalk in unless, and I don't know, wonder what criteria, that if they're not working in that area. So I have some concern with that. I also have a concern with your suggestion that you do a partial sidewalk, because I don't know how anybody figures out how big that is unless the board specifies 100 feet, 200 feet, or whatever the length would be so that it can be enforced.
I think it's going to be easier to specify a length based on that parking structure, that with the 15 new spots from driveway or from driveway to driveway.
So what you're suggesting is a sidewalk along Prospect Avenue, and I don't know what that length of frontage is. It seems very long when you drive by it. But so you'd have it in the middle of the block, and there wouldn't be sidewalk on either side. And the concept would be they come back next time, there's going to be another chunk of sidewalk added to it.
Correct.
So you're putting them on notice that this is going to be required, even though it might be something on the far end of the golf course.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
It's Alan Tremulak. Can I just...
Yes, Mr. Tremulak, go right ahead, sir.
Here briefly. I was going to make the point that Ms. McGovern just made, in that unless there's a specific requirement in your site plan ordinance that sidewalks be installed as part of the site plan, I don't think it's legal. I don't think it's fair or legally appropriate to put that burden on the golf club if it's not in your ordinance that would apply to all applicants for site plan approval. And certainly, the sidewalks have nothing to do with the variances that we're seeking. So I don't think you can require that as a condition to granting the variances that we've sought. I think it is appropriate, since we have presented a site plan that provides for, substantial reconfiguring of the portion of the property in front of the main clubhouse, that we provide sidewalks in that area. But I don't think it's fair to require that we bear the burden of putting in sidewalks in along the entire stretch of property that has nothing to do with this application. I understand what the town's trying to do, and I think it's a good objective. A lot of towns are trying to accomplish, Vision Zero. But again, I don't think it's fair to impose that burden on this applicant.
Thank you. So what I'm going to suggest, so there's two suggestions. My suggestion would be to have it from entranceway to entranceway in the front of the area where the new parking spaces will be. And in the future, we will discuss again, or as our ordinances change, when the golf club comes back to us, we can talk about more. And they're on notice. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out Ms. Kapfer also has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Klein.
You want to go first, Lori? Go ahead. I didn't see you. It's the color blended in with your background.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just a quick question. I believe that we do have a complete streets checklist. I'm not sure how that is incorporated into our ordinance, or if that's part of the.
It's really not. It's a suggestion. It's a suggestion, but it's not part of our site plan ordinance that you must do X or must do Y.
Okay.
So one day maybe, and we'll have to revisit that in the future. But it's a good question. But for right now, we're focusing on this area, and the board has Mr. Klein.
Can we do it in the sections where they're putting in the new wall? There's a few places, right?
Yep, that would do it.
At least you can measure. Okay, there's a wall, and in front of the wall. There's another wall. Put in front of the wall. Yeah,
That's a great suggestion.
That's a good suggestion.
Yes, Mr. Tremulak.
That's acceptable to the club.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's two suggestions. Council President Rutherford, would you agree with that, or do you still want the board to you want to query the board about mandate? Now realize that the law and ordinance is not with us on this.
So I certainly understand that. I also think having this conversation in public in a recorded session in a meeting where we're talking about pedestrian safety also is an issue for me as a council person. God forbid if something were to go wrong. So I would like to see it, the entire length of the property. I am happy to figure out ways we can be helpful to the golf club to get that done. I'm sure the mayor has more knowledge about the different ways we can be helpful to them. But I would certainly like to see that done. I know there are other properties that are going to be developed. I'm looking forward to getting it done there. And I will certainly bring it on the 10th to the town council to update our ordinance so that going forward we do have the tools. But I do think it's important that since we have this before us, we begin moving in that direction. So I would like to see it around along the entire length of the property to the West Orange property line.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What I'll do now is I'm going to poll the board. There's two options. One, to go along the wall that's being put up, or two, to mandate the entire length of the golf club. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I ask a quick question, because I'm listening to all these, and I think it's a good conversation we're having. But we don't even know what the linear feet is of actual sidewalk that has to be put in. So we have
over 2,000 feet. It's over 2,000
feet. 2,000 linear feet. And I just looked up an article, Forbes magazine, February 28th of 2024. Forbes magazine says it's between $6 and $12 a square foot. So average $9 a square foot. That's an expense that this applicant came forward to talk to us and agreed to certain. I agree with everybody about this. Me of all people, I agree with safety. I mean, that's just my nature. But I think in fairness, this is one of the things we have to take that into account. 2,000 linear feet is a long stretch of cement.
Okay.
So
what I'm going
I just want to put that out before we have our final discussion. Who's going to say what? Just make sure we have facts in front of us. That's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
And it also impacts a lot of landscaping as you get further south.
Yes.
So there may be a dead tree. They take the dead tree out. They can put sidewalk in. But if you go a little further south, it's a nice screen for their parking lot that's there before you get to the end of their property. So
let's focus. Let's focus, as you said, on the foot wall that's being put up. And so there's two possibilities. I'm going to poll the board. Please raise your hand if you want the entire site to have a sidewalk.
Well, eventually I would like it, but for now,
okay, Mr. Klein, in this application, what they have agreed to was to put a sidewalk by the foot wall that they're proposing, the 3-foot foot wall. So if you want that as a condition, please raise your hand.
I'm confused, sir. Are we voting on which part of this now?
Okay.
Is this the entire length or
if you want the sidewalk just by the foot wall, as they have agreed to at this moment. That will be the length of the sidewalk. Please raise your hand. So we have 1, 2,
Five.
Okay. If you want at this time to have a condition of the entire sidewalk, the entire property have a sidewalk, please raise your hand.
Can we combine that into a,
Yeah,
for now,
thanks.
we'd like 500 feet, but we'd like you to
No,
think about
no,
putting
no,
your
no,
bullet,
because,
no?
because we don't have that tool. We don't have that tool.
So if we ask them to do all 2,000 feet of it and they say no,
That's right. Nothing gets
right?
done.
But if we ask them to do it in front of the wall, it's hard for them to say no. They're already working.
Well,
on it.
they've already agreed. They already
Right.
agreed.
They've agreed to it. I just want to have everybody on the board have their say. Okay, so the Mayor McCartney.
Yeah, Chairman, it's an awkward question because yes, we would like to see a sidewalk along the whole length of the property. It doesn't sound like legally we are capable of doing that. So my recommendation would be to ask the Pedestrian Safety Commission to present an ordinance to the council
In the future. But for tonight,
So I don't believe that right now, though we would like to see that happen, we are not legally able to request that of them.
So tonight they have agreed to something. We agreed to it as a board. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. It makes a lot of sense. The club has heard our thoughts for the future, and to that end, I make a motion we approve PB.
Mr. Chair, before you go further, I just wanted to know what the result of the vote count on the second vote was.
2 people voted in favor of the entire site.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But to that point, I believe that it would be unanimous that the whole board would like to see that. I just don't think we're legally
yes
capable of doing that at that time.
They're a very good group of people in town, and we want to not encumber them with something that they didn't think about. They're adding to the project, and they have heard us, and they know what the future will bring. So we're working together in a partnership here, and the board always wants to make sure we have a good partnership. So we have a vision, and we have an action plan. So to that end, I make a motion we approve PB 24-04 Montclair Golf Club, Block 151, Lots 31, Zone R2, 25 Prospect Avenue, with the 3 variances as stated, based on the testimony of the 3 experts and our review of the documentation provided by Mr. Hess and Mr. Hazel, and with conditions. Do I have a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Garino seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Chairman Rutherford, I'm sorry, Council President Rutherford.
I'm sorry, you can't vote, sir, on this.
I'm sorry, I that was jumbled. I'm not clear what was just said.
Council President Rutherford, you weren't here for the entire testimony, so even though you can ask questions and put in comments, you can't vote on this portion.
Understood.
Please. Okay, Yamilet, on the motion.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ronaldo?
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza?
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer?
Yes.
Mayor McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino?
Yes.
Chairman Bago?
Yes, Mr. Tremulak and members of the Montclair Country Club, we want to thank you very much for your time, your effort, and the movement forward. Have a wonderful evening. We're going to take a 5-minute bio break now.
I guess I will never be a. Yeah, we did. I guess I'll never be a.
Mr. Guarino, you're not on mute.
Oh.
Very good stuff. We have, this is done. This is done. This is that. This is done. This is prepared. Okay. This is okay. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we all here?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, back on the record, please. Ladies and gentlemen, PB 24-06-410 Main Street Holding LLC, Block 113, Lot 262, 264, and 308, 410 Main Street. Applicant is proposing a 3-story mixed-use development with 12 residential dwelling units above, ground floor parking, and commercial space. For the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jason Tuvel, attorney for the applicant, 410 Main Street Holdings LLC. As you indicated, this is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval with C variances for a mixed-use building to be located at the property. Currently, the property is vacant. Before that, there was a 2-story dwelling located there, but has since been raised from the property, so it's currently a vacant site. The proposal, as you indicated, is a mixed-use building consisting of 12 residential units over ground floor retail or commercial space of 900 square feet and 13 parking spaces. The project is really a outcome of the master plan recommendations that the township had back in 2019 to revitalize the commercial corridors, and this is a B2 zone. And in several areas, and obviously we'll get to this during planning testimony at some point, the master plan and the board made recommendations to revitalize these types of sites in the commercial corridors, and really it encourages mixed-use development. So what happened then after the 2019 master plan reexamination report, the municipality adopted an ordinance that amended its conditional use standards and permits in business and industrial districts, and this being a business district, mixed-use developments such as this. But you have to meet 4 criteria of the conditional use standards, which is why we're in front of the planning board. We meet all 4 of them. But specifically, it was really the size of the property that the governing body felt would permit these types of mixed-use properties. And the size of the property being a lot size of 5,000 square feet or greater, and also having minimum street frontage of at least 50 feet. So we have that here. This is a corner lot. It also has significant topographical challenges that you'll hear about during the course of the testimony. We've had the ability to look at the review letter from CME. Obviously, we'll deal with it during the meeting, but we did respond to it. We take no exception with any of the items set forth therein, and I believe we did respond to most of the items in there. But if we didn't, we will do that and provide testimony where warranted. The variances that we're seeking, we do have several C variances that we're seeking. And what you'll hear during the testimony is that those variances are really driven by the fact that a mixed-use development needs proper retail space, adequate residential space and parking. So juggling those 3 things and the vision that the township had for these types of developments really necessitate the variances that we're seeking, and we'll go over that. It is a 3-story building, but it's 3 stories because of the topography on Main Street, but towards the rear, where it abuts or is adjacent to residential properties, it actually is a 2-story building. So the topography allows for the building to get a little bit smaller or look or appear smaller as the building goes towards the residential development. One last thing, and then I'll obviously turn it over to our witnesses, Mr. Chairman, is that The master plan also encouraged that the municipality revisit the parking standards for mixed use developments that's set forth there. It didn't act on that yet. However, RSIS, which is in your ordinance and also governs residential properties, was slightly amended in November of 2023 to be a maximum. So whatever is set forth in RSIS for mid-rise residential buildings are now a maximum. The planning board can still require that maximum, but what the state did is essentially say, look, RSIS may not be a one size fits all for all municipalities. And in certain areas where you may be close to mass transit, where you may be closer to a downtown, a municipality should or planning board should take into those factors and possibly reduce the parking limitation as set forth in your master plan. And in fact, if you provide less parking, which we are doing than RSIS requires, an applicant does not require a de minimis exception any longer from RSIS. So there was an amendment to the state legislation as well. We'll get into that in Mr. Maltz's testimony when he gets up to the board. So, Mr. Chairman, I have 4 witnesses that I plan on calling. Obviously, we're probably not going to get to all those tonight. We have an architect, our traffic engineer, civil engineer, and professional planner. So with that, the first witness I'd like to call in this context, because it's more of a downtown type project, is our architect, Brittany Klim with Mystery Design. So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'd like to call her up.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Klim, would you please raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Brittany, if you could just give the board the benefit of your qualifications as an architect,
Yes.
educational background, licenses held, and experience testifying before land use boards in the state of New Jersey.
I'm an associate at Mystery Design, which is located at 350 Clark Drive in Bud Lake, New Jersey. I hold a Bachelor of Science and a Master's of Architecture, both from Northeastern University. I've been licensed since 2012. My license is in good standing, and I've testified before various municipalities throughout the state, but not West Orange yet.
Okay, welcome to West Orange. Unless any members of the board have any questions, we accept Ms. Klim as an licensed architect in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thank
Do you mind if I share my screen?
All right, so Brittany, I know you're looking at the civil drawings here, but let's just, before we get into the nitty gritty of the architecture, if you could just orient the board and the public to where the site is located, some of the characteristics of the site that influence your design, and then we can get into the proposal.
Okay. So as Mr. Tavala said, I am showing the civil drawing, but this is to orient us toward the site.
Just reference the sheet just for the record that you're looking at.
This is the cover page of the civil plan. It is, you have a number. Of course, it has a pop-up that comes in.
P1.
Hold on. Thank you. Sorry. The pop-up was covered by my Zoom. All right. So to start off, we are in the B2 zone, and we are along Main Street at the corner of Park Drive North, shown this map. The tract is 11,936 square feet. It is approximately 134 linear feet along Main Street and approximately 85 linear feet along Park Drive North. It comprises of these 3 properties shown here. And the site is surrounded currently by traditional commercial properties along Main Street to the north. These buildings do abut their property lines on Main Street. And to the south, there are a few townhouses, followed by a Dunkin' Donuts and a gas station across the street. The subject property contained a 2.5-story frame building, but these improvements have been demolished. The next thing I'd like to acknowledge is the grade changes. There's a substantial grade change going from Main Street up Park Drive North. It is about 15 feet vertically. And there's currently a retaining wall along the property line on Main Street and partially along Park Drive North as well. And this will be largely eliminated by our design. I'm going to switch over to the architectural drawings. I have 4 architectural drawings that I'm going to share. The first is a rendering.
All right, so Brittany, should we mark this as an exhibit?
We can, yes. This was submitted as well.
Okay, it was submitted. Okay, fine.
Yes.
So, council, if you want us to mark it, we can, since it was submitted. I think it's part of the application.
Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get it.
So, yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna get out and get back in. I can't see the screen. It just says Brittany Klim has started screen sharing and I keep getting Zoom
Oh.
quit unexpectedly. So I
Do
don't
you
know if
want
I'm
me to
breaking up.
stop and reshare?
No, it's me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get out and get
Okay.
back in. So
Sure.
hopefully it'll work.
Mr.
You can
Chairman,
pause.
do you want us to wait till?
Okay, while Mr. Bryant is coming back in, while
All
he's
right,
coming
let me
back in, I want to do some housekeeping. There's 2 pictures, there's 2 renderings. So why don't we call the first one, we'll mark them separate so we know which one you're talking about. So
Sure.
we'll call the first rendering the color rendering that we have, we'll do that as A1, and then the second one will be A2.
Great.
Very good.
And Brittany, just indicate the perspective that the board is seeing.
This is from Main Street at the
Mr.
corner of
Klein.
Park Drive North.
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah, we won't get into substance.
Very good.
Comes back, that's fine.
Thank you.
So this page will be A1.
Better. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Klein, you back? You got it?
I'm back. I can see. Thank you.
Good deal.
Excellent.
Okay, go right ahead, Ms.
All right,
Klein.
go ahead, Brittany.
All right. This view that I'm showing was just marked as Exhibit A1. It is a view of the front of the building along Main Street at the corner of Park Drive North. We're proposing a mixed-use building with a residential tenant lobby and a commercial entry on Main Street. There's vehicular and pedestrian access to the parking garage along Park Drive North. We're proposing a series of storefronts along most of Main Street to create a pedestrian connection. This is the area I was explaining before, currently has a retaining wall. The materials include brick, veneer stone, lap siding, and composite trim. The building is 3 stories tall along Main Street, and we're creating a viable Main Street building that will also respect the adjacent residential properties behind it. Now this we can mark as A2.
Sure.
This is the
Just
view of the
describe-
rear of the building. Due to the existing site grading, as I previously described, the building is shorter in the rear. The parking level is recessed 8 feet in this area. From this view, the building reads more as a 2-story building, and the materials are consistent with the front of the building and wrap.
Yeah, and Brittany, I know you'll probably get into this more later, but just to guide everyone as they're listening, the parking area is not visible from the public. Is that correct? It's completely screened?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Onto sheet A 2.01. This sheet shows the first floor plan, typical upper floor plan and roof plan, as well as providing the square footage and the unit count chart. The applicant is proposing to build a 25,700 square foot building. It'll be 8,800 square feet on the ground floor and slightly smaller on each floor above. There are 12 units and 13 parking spaces with 1 900 square foot commercial space. On the first floor, I can zoom in a little so we can see it a little closer. That's better. On the first floor, ground floor, we have the commercial space trash termination room, the lobby space, which has a lower lobby as well as an upper lobby that connects to the interior parking garage, as well as stairs for circulation and utility space, which also reach storage, which will just be used for management storage, not for tenant use. The parking will be described in more detail by traffic and civil.
All right, and just, I know that we'll get into more detail. The trash is not accessed down there. It'll only be accessed on the first floor by maintenance. There'll be trash chutes for the upper levels on each floor,
Yes,
correct?
correct, yes. So going up, this is a typical upper level floor. There are 6 units on each floor for a total of 2 1-bedroom units, 2 1-bedroom plus den units, and 8 2-bedroom units. All the units contain kitchen, living space, bedroom, bathroom, washer dryers. The unit sizes for the 1-bedrooms are 839 square feet. 1-bedroom with den is 912 square feet. And the 2-bedrooms range from 1,083 square feet to 1,231 square feet. The units also have hot water heaters in them, and the HVAC system is P-TAX, which is shown on the plans and the elevations and the renderings. The buildings are designed and constructed to meet the latest fire, building, and accessibility codes. The buildings will be fully sprinklered and have a fire alarm system. All areas of the building are ADA accessible. There will be energy efficient windows, appliances, and plumbing fixtures. Up on the, I'll switch to the roof plan. On the roof, we will have a white flat roof to reduce the heat island effect. There will be an elevator penthouse, which usually sticks up about 2 to 3 feet above the roof surface. There are 2 small rooftop units proposed. Those are used for the common areas and the commercial tenant HVAC. These elements will all be screened by the parapet walls, and they will not be visible by adjacent buildings or from the ground. I know one of the questions was about deliveries. Deliveries will take place on the street level on Main Street. I know that there's a bus stop. I think the traffic engineer will address exactly how the bus stop works. But generally, there is parking on Main Street, and deliveries can occur through that as long as they are not in the public transit bus stop. There'll be a key fob system as well as cameras, and mail and packages will come in through the lobby, which is consistent with other properties along Main Street, other commercial properties. Each residential floor, as we discussed, has a trash chute, and the trash will be brought to that chute from each unit, as well as recycle cans. And the building manager will collect the recycling and bring it down on a regular schedule to the trash termination room for later collection. The trash and recycle will be picked up along Main Street by private hauler. The collection, the attendee will roll out the dumpsters for collection. Once the refuse is collected, the vehicle will continue forward along Main Street, no turnaround, and they will not go up Park Drive North.
And Brittany, the commercial space and the residential share the trash room, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
As well, the frequency of collection will be 2 times a week, which is standard for a multifamily apartment building of this size, and it can be adjusted if necessary. I'm going to move on to the elevations. These are the 2D elevations that correspond to the 3D renderings I showed previously. They show the finishes and the heights along all 4 sides of the building. The property sits at the corner of Main Street and Park Drive North, as we know. The residential lobby is in the center of the front elevation, shown here. And the commercial entry is on the right side, with the trash entry between it. The The elevations help to demonstrate the grading on the site. The residential lobby is set at 241.4 feet on Main Street. The grade rises toward Park Drive North, and then the grade at the vehicular parking garage entry is at 248.5 feet. In the rear of the building, it is at 256.5 feet, back here where the door exits. The difference between the lowest point and highest point is just over 15 feet in grade change. So we have the storefronts that are along Main Street, which help provide the pedestrian scale and connection. The building entrance is easily identifiable, as well as the commercial space. And there will be tinted film applied for the trash room and to the upper portions of the windows.
And Brittany, you already hit on some of the conditional use criteria. There's only 4 of them. But just to be clear, the ground floor tenant, whether the commercial tenant, will be one of the permitted uses noted in item 1 of the conditional use standards. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Obviously, we have 1 or more dwelling units on upper floors. That's correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the access, and I think you just explained this, the access to the upper floors for uses shall be provided by means of a separate entrance than provided for the ground floor uses, and they have separate entrances, correct?
Correct, they do, yes.
All right, and you already indicated in your introduction that we meet the minimum lot size requirement and the frontage requirements.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to zoom in a little on this front elevation. We have compliant signage shown along Main Street. We have 2 15 square foot signs, one over the residential entry and one over the commercial entry. And then going to the Park Drive side, we have 1 5 square foot sign to identify the building number at the man door to the parking garage. And as well in this area, we have the caution vehicle exit sign, which was a recommendation of SPRAB.
And just to be clear, the door to the garage will be closed at all times except when opened by key fob by somebody with access, correct?
Correct, yes. We're proposing a door and access system, correct.
And that's as well as for the regular door that you would come in as a pedestrian, right?
Yes, all the doors will be locked and with a key fob system, so you'd have to have that for access.
And the owner operator will also have access cameras around the entire building and in the garage.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes. That concludes the testimony I have, unless you have any other questions for me, Mr. Tavell.
No, I think we're good. I wanted to make sure that any of the items set forth in the CME letter that relate to architecture, that I think you covered most of them that you perhaps may have missed, you'll agree to comply with, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We will comply.
All right. And Mr. Chairman and members of the board, obviously the other witnesses will address the other comments set forth in the letter. So I turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, while we're waiting, just one other item, I guess, too, that Brittany, you just might not, Harold will cover this as well, our traffic engineer, but we do have the requisite EV charging stations in the garage. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, just so we get that on the record. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Doug?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay. Vice Chairman Garino, do you have any questions?
We'll be getting to traffic engineering shortly, won't we, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Toy?
I believe so.
Okay.
Mr. Tuvell, are we getting into traffic engineering?
Yeah, I was gonna actually, because the architect already explained the ground floor plan and circulation, I was gonna go to the traffic engineer next to kind of expand on that a little further.
That's fine.
Okay,
We'll get there.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions? Mayor McCartney? Okay, we'll come back to the mayor. Council President Rutherford, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. The interior driveway, it's ingress and egress on one side of the building. First question is, what is the width of that?
22 feet.
So it is wide enough if a car were to be try to exit for while another car is trying to enter, for both of them to maneuver through that door at the same time?
Yeah.
Yes, it is designed for 2A.
Yeah, and Council President, also, it's a good question, and I think it actually came up in one of the letters, and I was gonna have Mr. Maltz, as our traffic expert, go through that as well.
Excellent. So I'm curious as to why you didn't have the exit on the other side of the building.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms. Klim. Can you share your screen again for this portion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Brittany, maybe the site plan might be the better exhibit for this, or your first floor plan, I think is fine.
I'm looking at A2.01.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yep, that one.
Not letting me zoom in. Here we go. Sorry.
So it's a one-way street, Park Drive. I think that's Park Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that north on that side? Park Drive North?
Park Drive North,
either way,
correct.
That's a one-way street. It's a loop. So you're going to have people come in and out of that side and then go around the entire block. Why not have the exit on the other side of the building?
I think, again, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think it's a better question for the traffic engineer, because he could speak to, the anticipated trip generation and, how pedestrian and vehicular, movements will work together. So I'm not trying to avoid it. I just think he'd be the proper professional to answer. That's all.
All right. Is there something structurally that prevents you from having cars exit on the other side of the building?
Brittany, can you answer that?
We are limited due to the grading. Grading is a big issue. The parking is 7 feet higher than the elevation at Main Street.
So structurally, there's an impediment to exiting on Park Drive South.
Yes.
I counted these, and I admit my eyes are not what they used.
There's a building on the other side of it, guys. There's a building on the other side of this.
Correct. It's not surrounded by Park Drive North and Park Drive South.
Right.
There is another property.
Right. So
it's a corner lot, but
the
not
townhouses
three-sided.
that are there. That's right.
Right.
Yep.
This abuts another building.
Yep. I recall now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if Mr. Klein is trying to talk, but he's on mute. I think he was trying to.
Mr. Klein, you're on mute
a couple times.
No, Jason, that's my thing. I like to make faces, and I get in trouble for it.
Up to you. It's okay.
I'll do both. I'll mute and I'll.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going back to my notes. So I still have the microphone. Is that right, Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry.
We have 12 units in this property. And is it 12 or 13 parking spaces?
There are 13, and they're going to be addressed in more detail by the traffic engineer.
So I only see 12 on your. Oh, I do see 13. Okay, one handicap and 12 regular parking spaces.
That's correct, Council President. That's correct.
So at the far end of the building, where the handicap parking spot is, there are 2 spots there. Is that enough radius for the parked car that would not be in the handicap spot to back out if a car was in the handicap spot? I mean, do we know what that kind of radius required is for that?
Mhm. That will be answered by the civil engineer.
That's it for me, so far. Thank you.
Mayor McCartney?
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry for the lapse there. I had to go from my laptop to my phone. I wanted to say that I guess I was under the impression that all of these 12 units would be of smaller dimensions, like the 839 or the 912. I was not expecting to hear the 2 bedrooms. So that would explain that variance of the 12 units. I thought it could manage with the 13 parking spaces. The 2 bedrooms now have become concerning to me. And I'm just wondering if we're coming out on Park Drive North, is that a one-way? Do residents now have to come out? Can they make a right onto Main Street, or do they have to go up and around Park Drive to exit on Park Drive South? That may be a question for the traffic engineer, but it's raising a question. And I also want to raise the concern that there was, though not designated, a historic building on this site that was demolished. And what is being proposed is really a cold, unesthetically pleasing building right on our main street. So that's more commentary than a question, but just feel disappointed in this. Sorry to say.
Okay. Mr. Klein?
And will there be anything addressed about the lighting in the parking garage?
Brittany, can you address that?
Yes, there will be lighting within the parking garage. All the lighting is building mounted. There's no pole mounted lighting anywhere on the site. And it will be addressed in more detail with the civil engineer.
So then again, with the traffic engineer, if there is a variance for parking, then where would the parking be available for the retail space?
I think we have to wait for the traffic engineer for all of that.
Okay, and one more question, just curious. Has there been any consideration about going taller with this building? Would that, I understand it would be a variance, but would that provide additional parking if the building were proposed to be taller?
I don't believe so within this footprint. It would be difficult to get a ramp for additional levels.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Klein?
I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you talk about the materials? Is it going to be real brick or just brick face? Is it going to be hardy board or something like that? Did you talk about the materials?
Sure, I'll go back to that.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So we have, I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. So at the bottom, we have a stone veneer, which was added at the recommendation of SPRAB. And then we have full brick for the majority of the first floor. And brick continues up in select areas, all full brick, no thin brick. And then we have lap siding and composite trim at the windows. And a beige cornice at the top of the brick portions.
And can you tell me again why you're blocking out the upper portions of the windows on the first floor? You said you were blacking them out or doing some kind of treatment on the upper
yes,
portion?
we're going to have tinting or opaque film on the top portion of the windows, as well as on the trash room door to block visibility. So in the trash room, you wouldn't want to have a view into that, but also on the top, it's for mechanical and so that there's space above the ceiling to function.
Oh, okay. Oh, the drop ceiling will be down to the line.
Yes.
And above that will be. Oh, I got you. Okay. No.
Yeah, it's because this is a tall space here, so we extended the storefront to make it more aesthetically pleasing, but that top portion will be will have an opaque film.
Okay. Can you go back to a floor plan that shows? I guess it's either a 1-bedroom with a den or something that shows a den.
Sure. So there are only 2 units that have the den, and it is this unit 202. as well on the third floor. It will be unit 302. And so I can walk you through the plan. I'll zoom
So
in
the
a
den,
little bit more.
so,
Right.
so the den has,
It's-
no windows? It
The
says
den has
7
no
foot 7.
windows.
Okay,
It is 7'10" by 13'1", and it does not have a doorway. It has a larger than 5-foot opening.
all right, so that really couldn't be made into a bedroom, certainly not legally.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, can I just go back to one of the questions that the mayor had regarding the height? That's okay. I just
Go
want
right
to.
ahead. Mr. Klein, are you done? Wait, Mr. Klein, are you done?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm done, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm finished.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to address it because it's just so we're on the same page there. So the maximum height permitted in the zone is 35 feet. We're at 34.2. So the most that we could go with, I mean, we could seek a C variance, for example, but the most we could go is 38.4 feet without it going to this board of adjustment, without it being a board of adjustment because of the 10% requirement. So we could evaluate it obviously, but the only wiggle room we would have and still stay at this board is approximately 4 feet, like roughly 4 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Duda.
Where are you measuring the building from?
Average grade. Let me show you here. On the Main Street elevation, you can see average grade is at 251.16 feet. And then the top of roof is 37 feet above the first floor slab. Actually, no, it's above, sorry, it's above that. And so for the total of 34 foot 4 inches.
So you're measuring the average, I'm looking at your lines, the average grade is higher. I'm sorry.
It's around the whole building.
Eventually I'm going to ask Mr. Hess to tell us what the ordinance is because we have a specific way of measuring. I know we've gone through this before. I want to hear what Mr. Hess has to say, but okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
That's done in coordination with the civil engineer who follows the town ordinances as far as how the how the average grade is determined. Because sometimes it is right at the property line. Sometimes it's 10 feet out, 10 feet
I'm not
in.
arguing. That's what I want to hear from our expert. That's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Moraldo.
Yes, Chairman. So going back to, first of all, you stated earlier, I'm going to go over a lot of the fire stuff. You said everything's going to be in compliance with the firewall code and everything else. The garage, you said sprinklers. Is that going to be a wet system or a dry system? Is there going to be heat in there?
Presumably inside the garage will be a dry system. There will be heat in the ceiling for the underside of the structure above to keep from freezing with the plumbing that comes through. But I believe the system in the garage is usually dry. But the entire building is sprinklered, not just the parking.
Okay. And what is the total bedroom count? I know you gave
The total bedroom count. So 8 times 2 is 16, plus another 4, so 20 bedrooms.
So 20 bedrooms and 13 parking spaces and retail. That's my question. Okay. What is the height on the third floor to the roof? The whole total ceiling height? Because you said there's a plenum above the apartment.
The ceiling, yes, the ceiling heights will be 9 feet within the units.
Okay. And then what's
The ceiling height, and typically the structure is wood truss, about 18 inches or so, and then the roof is usually sloped to allow for drainage.
Okay. So I'm looking at this is what page? I'm sorry, I zoomed in. The one with the roof plan and the floor plan and everything else. That picture.
Yes.
Yeah, that one there. So I'm looking at the roof plan right there. To me, that looks like a scuttle hole at the top left. Correct?
Oh, sorry.
That's
Here?
scuttle. Nope.
Yes, there will be downspouts along the rear.
Okay, so I'm roof access. I'm talking about scuttle hole. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Wait a minute, I said scupper. Yes, there is a hatch The hatch is coming out of the rear stair.
What's the dimension of the hatch?
Usually 4x4 or 5x5.
Okay. And all the mechanicals are up on the roof, right?
Yes, the units will have their own mechanicals, but these will be for the common areas and for the commercial space. There's a code requirement that you bring fresh air into the common corridors.
Okay, so looking at your plans, you have staircases coming up from the basement all the way to the third floor. Can you incorporate another staircase up to the roof and put an access way that way instead of getting rid of the scupper or the scuttle? It's the scuttle hole.
It's possible, but that's going to raise our. Well, actually, I think we're allowed to go above. We are allowed to bring a stair up by code. But
I have a problem with the scuttle hole because one, it's access for the fire department, and two, you have roof maintenance. You got people climbing vertically 9, 10, 11 feet, whatever, with tools, equipment, slips, falls, and things of that nature. So I have a problem with that. I would want to make that a condition that a staircase provided instead of a scuttle hole. So that was my question on that. I think all the rest I have is related to traffic and everything else. I don't want to delay this, but I'm happy with everything else so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just piggyback? On the scuttle?
Decline.
So if you do have a real stairwell there, are you going to see that from the neighbor's side? Like if that thing was in the middle of the roof, it wouldn't be a problem. But it's all the way to the side where there's a neighbor. I don't know what the elevation. Are they going to see that protrusion on the roof?
Yeah, they would. I would think they would.
Yeah, right.
May I
mean, I don't know
define the comment?
height-wise. I don't know if they're above it or below it. I don't know. I can't tell.
But I defer to safety over the neighbor's aesthetics. So I mean, that's
No. I guess my question was going to be: is there a way to move it a little further in? But it's going to mess up.
I don't.
Floor
Yeah,
plan
looking
below,
at it, I don't think so. But yeah, I just unless they want to. I'm trying to get into within the code. We'll make sure we're preventing.
Yeah. I mean, and you'll dress it up to make it look like whatever. Whether it's brick or it's siding. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Morgan.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cardoza.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Klim, can we start with the first floor?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at the commercial space, there's no restroom there?
The commercial space is not designed at this time. It will have a restroom.
Okay.
I assume that we'll probably show rough-in for it at the time of, if assuming this moves forward, at the time of construction documents, we would usually provide for space 900 square feet. We would usually provide one toilet room.
Okay. Looking at the trash room, the only entry, point of ingress and egress is the one door on the street, right?
Correct.
Okay. The entrance from the Park Drive North, the doorway from Park Drive North, so there's a ramp and it connects to the stairwell halfway up, I guess, coming up from the first floor.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify everything that I'm saying. Whereas, I don't know. I'm looking at two different stairwells in the I see the main lobby stairwell, and I see another stair A. Can you just?
All right. So there's an open stair within the lobby that has 13 risers. Then within stairwell A, we have 13 risers from the lower lobby to the upper lobby, but within the stairwell.
Mm-hmm. And then, so I'm trying to envision this going up to both of these continue up to the third floor.
So this goes, the open stair in the lobby terminates at the lower lobby and the upper lobby. The stairwell continues up over here.
Where it terminates.
Stair A continues over here.
Gotcha. Where it terminates, if you can go back, am I seeing that the elevator opens at both ends?
Yes.
Okay. And the elevator, okay, so that opens at both ends on each floor, except for the lower lobby. Just the first, yeah.
The elevator opens at the upper lobby and the lower lobby and on all floors.
No, I mean the rear of the elevator couldn't open at the ground level.
It does. It opens at the ground level when you come into the lower lobby, and it opens at the upper lobby.
The rear of the elevator?
I think Mr. Cardozo is saying, is there two sets of doors on the elevator, back and front?
Yes. Yes, there are.
Okay, I guess that'll click for me in a second then. The entrance on the opposite side for the utility and storage. So as far as storage, we're not talking residential item storage, or what do you mean?
No, it'll probably be shovels or things of that nature for management. The tenants will not have access to the storage.
Okay. All right. And as far as the parking, I know you're going to address that later, but I just want to, this might be more of a question for management rather than traffic flow. You got 13 spots, 12 units. You're assigning, I assume, one unit, one parking space per unit, and then what happens with this other lot? Or does management have a spot? Like is this?
That will be fully addressed, yes.
Okay. Looking at, I guess I see it in the back, the entrance to the stairwell from the concrete walk. That's at I guess that connects at the landing of the stairwell, the first landing, the rear stairwell. Okay.
Yes.
Can we look at the roof?
Sorry.
So I guess I'm just having trouble. What were these two units? The ones with the I don't know what I'm looking at. Is this like a brick?
Yeah.
What is that path, and what are those?
All right. So the path are walking paths, which you typically have on a like a TPO or an EPDM roof to prevent damage to the roof surface. And over here we have the elevator penthouse, which will protrude through the roof a few feet. And then to the right, I have a rooftop unit. And then back here, we have the roof hatch, as well as a second rooftop unit.
Okay, when you say rooftop unit, you're talking about a mechanical.
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
And
an HVAC system.
Gotcha. And when you say, I don't even remember, penthouse for the
penthouse.
You're talking about like some light.
No, the elevator shaft requires a higher ceiling height than the rest of the floor. It's usually somewhere in the realm of around 12 feet because of the system on the top of the elevator shaft.
Okay. Understood.
But it will be fully screened.
Understood. And you said the parapets that surround the top floor here, the roof. How tall is it?
I don't have that exact measurement, but they'll come up a few feet.
Okay. All right. So then it's pretty clear that the roof is not meant for residential use. It's purely for management and maintenance.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And there's not much maintenance is required on the roof.
Okay. Can you zoom out again? I'm just trying to make sure I recall everything here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I suppose that's it for now. Thank you, Ms. Clem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cardozo. Ms. Capper, do you have any questions?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capper. Mr. Hess, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two things. First is you had asked about the definition of building height. The building height is measured from the mean ground elevation surrounding the building to the highest point of the roof. That's based on the definitions in the ordinance book.
Okay. So do you agree with their measurement?
I had not checked it. Normally that's something the planner looks at, because that's a variance issue, but I could take a look at it and see if I agree.
Okay.
And the second question, the actual question that I have relates to the units, the 1-bedroom units with the dens. I think you had, Ms. Plim, I think you had said earlier that it wasn't big enough to become a bedroom.
Yes.
But the question I had is when I look at the dimensions, it shows it being, it shows it being 7 foot 10 inches by 13 foot 1. I think that could be big enough to be a bedroom. And my question is, how would you keep that from being converted to a bedroom? Would there be deed restriction? Would there be lease restrictions, or how would that be done?
Well, I testified that to the dimensions and that there's a 5-foot entry to the room. Or to
Which
the,
is an
to the den.
addition.
So there is no 3-foot opening that you could simply add a door to. That is one element. And typically it's the fire department will check them on occasion, and that would also be within the lease as well, that you're not allowed to use it as a bedroom.
Okay, so that would be in the lease. I know, I saw the 5 foot that you're talking about, but that's actually not included in the 13 foot 1 inch dimensions. So that actually would increase the overall length to 18 feet.
No, 5 feet in the other direction. The entryway into that den is 5 feet. On this page, is from top to bottom. Actually, a little larger than 5 feet. From that
the other
closet
dimension
to the
is-
back of the tub.
The other dimension is a closet, is the hall closet.
Correct.
That's the 5
No,
feet
but
you're
I'm talking about
John.
in front of the hall closet.
Right, it's the hall closet, so,
Yeah,
I see what you're
it's
saying.
not considered part of the den.
Right, and that's what I said. Your 13 foot 1 inch doesn't include that area in front of the closet. So that if that's 5 feet, you actually have the length up to the entrance wall of 18 feet. 18 foot 1 inches, correct?
I don't believe it's 5 feet horizontally. I know that it is 5 feet vertically. I don't think that closet is 5 feet wide. It looks like smaller than a 3-foot door just by eye. Maybe the whole closet is 3 feet wide, if that.
Okay, so then instead of 13, maybe it's 16 feet in that range for the overall length in that area. That's just one of my concerns, is that how do we keep that from being converted into
I think
this is a bedroom?
I think Mr. Hess, based on what Brittany was saying, she doesn't think from a layout standpoint it's possible, but we could also obviously put a condition, put a restriction in the lease. I think there are other impediments that we can place in if the board chooses to do that.
And actually, I would be more comfortable with some restrictions like that.
Okay.
And I also, I have to interject here, that was not an incorrect statement. The fire department does not go into buildings, into apartments.
This is Geraldo. Thank
The
you.
New Jersey Administrative Fire Code is prohibitive. It's common areas and basements. So to say that the fire department is going to do this is not an accurate statement. So,
Okay, I've come across that in other towns.
well, that's.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, it's not in the code. There may be property maintenance and others, but that's definitely not in the code. So, and they may do it, it may not be correct. So, just want to make sure. And while I have the floor, real quick about the elevators, does the elevator, is it large enough to handle a stretcher if there was an emergency? Okay. All right. And the elevator shaft is concrete?
It will either be concrete or concrete masonry units.
So, all right. Okay.
Block.
And then what about the trash units? Is that going to be cement, concrete also, or wood framed?
On the upper, are you talking about the chute?
Yeah, the trash chutes, yes.
The chute is usually constructed of shaft wall, which is the CH channel, and one layer of 1 inch gyp. They're 2-hour rated.
Okay. Will there be sprinklers in there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Thank you.
Welcome. Ms. Kaffer.
I don't have any questions at this time. I think Mr.
I'm
Cardoza
sorry,
has- yeah.
Mr. Hazel.
Yes. Just a couple things. In terms of the height, as indicated, based on based on the methodology that was employed to get this height, that is sound. Basically, it's taking the height from the average grade as calculated on all sides. So that methodology is accurate.
Great, thank you.
I had another question about the front of the building. Just looking at your rendering, the area where you're talking about having the glass opaque, did you consider possibly doing some sort of a canopy or something of that sort that would extend out that would essentially shield that view from the sidewalk and from the street frontage of that area inside?
In awning, yes. We have talked about it. It is something we could do if the board was favorable to it.
Yeah, I think it will help in, for want of a better way of putting it, dressing up the front a little bit that makes it look a little more, I think that's
I'll break it up.
all I have for now. Yes, but also, did you consider, and I'm not sure, I probably should really look into this more on the what the permissiveness of this within the city ordinances, but did you look at doing any, in terms of the parking, did you look at, I just happened to notice up the street, there is quite a bit of parking for the apartment buildings, and so I'm not sure if that's how much that's used, if it's basically at capacity now, or if there's a lot of empty spaces that basically there throughout the day and etc. Did you look at the possibility of looking at shared space in any of those properties surrounding this?
Yeah, Jerry, I'd have to ask the client or the traffic expert on that. Brittany wouldn't have been the one that would have looked into
Okay,
that.
all right.
But it's a fair point, and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I circle back, Mr. Chairman.
Who's talking?
Cardoza.
Mr. Cardoza, absolutely.
All right, terrific. Thank you. Ms. Klim, can I follow up on the elevator? I'm looking at the second floor plan.
Yes.
Okay, so sorry to beat a dead horse. You mentioned that the elevator opens in the front and the rear on which floor now? So the second floor.
So this is the second floor. It's residential. It has one entrance on, we'll call it the front of the elevator.
And that would be the third floor as well?
Right. And then on the ground level, that same entrance will be available at the lower lobby. But the upper lobby is 7 feet, 1.25 inches higher.
Okay.
So you go up these 13 risers and you land 7 feet higher. And this elevator will have a rear entry as well. And you will be able to exit or enter the elevator at that level.
Okay. And so then,
sorry. For example, if you had a handicap user here, they could come through the door, take the elevator down, access the mailbox, go back into the elevator and go up to their unit. If someone came in through the front door, they could go into the elevator, come through to the upper lobby, or continue up to the floors above.
Well, then, since you mentioned that, so the entrance to the upper lobby from the garage, the entrance to the upper lobby from the walkway, from the ramp, from the street, is level with the garage?
So are you talking about this entry?
Where's that on the person?
On the side? On Park Drive North?
Oh, sorry, I think I'm enlarged. Yeah, so from there to the upper lobby, so the door to the upper lobby, you're saying that is level with the garage?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then, looking at the second floor again, the elevator. That's the same. It's same thing for the third floor. and then the office, storage / office, same thing for the third floor?
Correct. Yes.
So perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the renderings, it looks like a lot of green on both, in both the rear and on the side. How much space are we talking about between the neighbors?
I think the civil engineer will get into the exact on that. I don't know if Mr.
Yeah,
Swell, you want me to answer that, or?
Well, I think you could give a generic answer for Mr. Cardoza. That
Yeah, I mean,
it in the rear, Brittany, it ranges from 8.16 feet, I believe, to about 13 feet in the rear, correct?
yes, 8.1, sorry, 8.16 in the corner over here where the property narrows down, and then back here where the stair is, it is, I think you said 12.
Yeah,
Page,
it looks
sorry.
like actually it probably goes
12.32 feet at the from this edge of the stair tower to the property line. And you are correct. This grass would be smaller because, in fact, there is another building here.
Right. And then on the other side, I don't know.
In the front, this is the accurate landscaping. I guess there's artistic with the trees. Maybe there's a few less trees in reality on the adjacent properties, but the landscaping shown is as true to the landscaping plan that is proposed within the civil set.
Understood. I meant the other edge. I don't know what to call it. I'm going to say the left, but
back here.
Yeah, between that end of the building and the neighbors on that side, how much space, roughly?
Yes, I think I know we're going to have some greenery on the top of this rock wall, which will be discussed with the landscape plan, or not rock wall, the retaining wall, and the adjacent property here, I believe, has some landscaping in the front as well.
Do you know the distance?
I do not have the distance at this exact corner, but a little further back where it's tighter, it's 5.22 feet.
Oh, okay, so it's really okay.
So it's a little wider at that corner, maybe somewhere around 6 or 7 feet.
Okay. All right.
The building is square and the property line is angled.
Okay. I'm just envisioning it because that's where the entrance for the storage and utility is located.
Yes.
Okay. So then, can you go back out to the image that shows, I guess, the first floor? So, since there's an elevation, to the left of the main entrance, to get to the utility and storage, the maintenance crew is going to have to walk around the back of the building or hop that elevation here every time they want to access.
Presumably they would use the interior door. The exterior door is provided if needed for egress.
Okay, the interior door from the garage.
Yes, that is meant to be the commonly used door.
Understood. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have a question. Is the sidewalk narrower on the southerly side of the building than on the northerly side of the building based on the retaining wall?
What I can answer on that is that the retaining wall on the existing property used to go all the way to the property line, and we have brought it back 5 feet to the face of the building.
Right.
And we actually had proposed mulch or grass in between the doorways, and based on our review with SPRAB, we extended the sidewalk up against the building. I know it will be addressed more thoroughly in civil. Sorry to keep giving that answer.
Okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. So at this time, it is now 10:50.
Chairman, I have another question before you end.
Mayor McCartney.
Please, thank you. So Mr. Cardoza's question was about the elevators was the first time I've heard ADA compliance. I just want to be reassured that the building is ADA compliant.
Yes, that was part of my testimony, that it will be fully ADA compliant. Every space within the building is ADA compliant.
All right, thank you. And I wanted to thank Mr. Hazel for bringing up the idea about the canopy, because again, along our Main Street corridor, we have a Thomas Edison National Historic Park. We recently designated Trinity Church as a historic site. We have Our Lady of Lourdes Church, over 100 years old, Washington Street School, over 100 years old. And again, this building where Mr. Hazel had mentioned canopies, any way to dress this up to make it look more classic or not an institution? That would be my question. And my question is about really the trash room. If the trash room is going to be accessible for all units, will there be a private hauler, and how will they access all of the trash in that trash room?
Yeah, Brittany, can you just reiterate that so it's clear?
Sure, yes. So the tenants will have access to the trash collection room on each upper floor. They will use a trash chute, and their bags of trash will go down the chute and land in the trash termination room on the ground floor. There will also be recycle bins in that trash room on each floor that tenants will fill, and the maintenance personnel will bring those recycle bins down, most likely via the elevator, down to the trash room on a regular schedule, and it will all collect down in the trash room. I stated that trash pickup will be by private hauler coming along Main Street, and the maintenance personnel will facilitate the removal of the containers into the bin. They will not be sitting and waiting on the curb.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer fully?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 10:53. We're going to have public comment at our next meeting.
Mr. Chair, before we go, I did have some follow-up questions, if that's all right.
Go right ahead, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. you stated that the hauler for the trash will not be making a U-turn on Main Street. I would expect that they wouldn't, but I don't know that we can, certify that they won't make a U-turn there, and that is a very congested corridor. So, just wanted to add that commentary. Is it impossible for us to know whether or not they will make a U-turn on Main Street after collecting the garbage there, especially if that's the last stop on their route and they're not going anywhere further down Main Street. I do have a question with regard to the recycling. You said that there's a chute on each level for the trash, and the residents will put their trash down the chute, and I assume a superintendent of some sort will load those up into the bins and take them out. Is it the residents' responsibility to separate the recyclables, or is there a separate chute for recyclables, or do they have to walk those down to the trash room and put the recyclables in there?
No, Mr. Council President, I'll reiterate. I thought we were clear, so I apologize if it wasn't clear. So in the trash room on each floor, the resident will bring their trash, like you would put your trash in the garbage, and then there'll be a separate bin for recycling that the residents will put, bottles and cans and cardboard and stuff like that. And then the building management will take the cardboard or recycling items from each floor, bring them into the trash room on the first floor, put them in a separate recycling bin that the private hauler will take when they come to pick up.
Got it. I didn't hear that earlier.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. No worries.
With regard to the EV stations in the garage, it looks like there are two. Is that right? There are two electric vehicle charging stations?
That's correct, because we have to have the ADA space also have the ability to have an EV charger.
Got it. And do we know what type of chargers they will be?
No, that's usually spec'd out later. I think we have to run the conduit and show it there, but the actual charger, I don't believe that that's picked out till construction.
Got it. And so essentially there will be one electric vehicle charging station for non ADA residents.
Right. The way the statute sets it up is that based on the number of units here, we only need one for the I'll call it for a regular EV, and then one for the ADA. But in this situation, we could avoid having multiple chargers. We could probably have one structure that has two, outlets that allow you to plug in, so it doesn't take up as much room.
Got it. So if there are multiple EV vehicles in the garage, that EV space can't be designated for a resident. That's going to be a space only to charge and then put your car back where it needs to be.
No, so somebody with an EV car would just get that space to charge their space.
And if there were more than one EV car in the building,
right. So if there's for example, more than one person has an electric vehicle, either one or two things can occur, and we can discuss this. I've seen it where you just leave it the way it is, which is per state code, or you can pre-wire some of the other areas in the building and have the flexibility in the future of running an EV charger in the event the tenants require it.
Got it. All right. My last question is kind of like a comment. I'm picking up on what Mr. Hazel said earlier. In the rendering that shows the corner of Park Drive North and Main Street, that one, there are no cars shown parked on the street below the garage. As it is now, there are cars parked there. I don't know who on the township side can address this, but I don't know what our ordinance is with regard to parking there. But if the desire is to have no parking there, that might require a change in the parking rules on Park Drive North. All right, I think that's it for me. I think someone else is going to address where the retail parking will be. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Council President. It is now 10:58, so we are going to hold this over to our next meeting on July 10th. Does that work for all of you guys?
Yeah, let me just confer with everyone, Mr. Chairman. Just give me 1 second.
Good. Okay, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, whether conferring, just real quick, to answer Council President Rutherford's question, I think on that
Mr. Geraldo, go right ahead.
That picture, that rendering they had from the garage door down to Main Street, if that's within 50 feet of the corner there, that's prohibited parking anyway under state law.
Even on a one-way?
I believe so, but I think it's 50 feet. That's what the police chief has told me in the past. I can confirm that with him, but I'm pretty sure it's 50 feet.
50 feet from a stop sign, 25 from a crosswalk.
Right.
Yeah, there's a crosswalk there, so.
Not the part of Mr. Klein. I think he knows a little better.
It's 25 from a crosswalk.
And as you go up that block, I was there today, there's no parking on that side of the street. All the parking is on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, that date works fine.
Fantastic. Okay, so we are all in agreement. So PB 24-06 Main Street Holding LLC will be carried to the next planning board meeting on July 10th, 2024.
With no further notice, correct?
With no further notice. Exactly. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. The next regular planning board meeting will be Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Don't go anywhere. There is a special meeting I am announcing tonight for the West Essex Highlands application. Again, a special meeting on July 16th and July 17th. It will start at 6 o'clock and be over at 11 o'clock each night. And the location will be announced within accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act shortly on our website and in the newspaper. And I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman seconds, all in favor?
Eyes above the nose.
No, the ayes are definitely above the nose. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night, Dawn.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Good night.
Night.